Well, good evening and welcome to Investigate Everything. I apologize, I was late. There's some internet connection issue here in this building in Brooklyn, so hopefully we can keep on streaming, but it gives me a little squiggle like every 10 minutes. Hopefully that problem is solved. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about the socialists or communists, whatever you want to call them. They call themselves socialists, but really all of their policies are very, very communist. They talk about seizing the means of production, and by the way, I'm talking about the Democratic Socialists of America. But when they're talking about seizing the means of production and all these policies that are like right out of the Lenin playbook, they're talking about doing those things once they are the government, or so they hope to be. That would make it communism. But that's beside the point. The point I want to get into today is really the danger of what I'm seeing here in New York for the entire country. Now, I spent many hours this week trying to figure out, okay, why is New York City important to the entire country? Which is, a question everyone should be asking. Well, apparently, New York City constitutes almost 10% of the entire GDP for the country. It also controls the major ports. It controls the major banks and also the major payment processing and stock processing apparatus. So control of the city is very, very dire if it falls into the wrong hands. Now, that doesn't mean that Mamdani and his little socialist buddies have access or can do all that stuff, but, who knows? We got UFOs. On page 8, we have all sorts of crazy things. We have a president they've been trying to kill 7 times. We have things going on in this country and around the world that we never thought we'd see. And they're almost becoming normalized. Things have to be pretty crazy to even make the headlines these days. Okay, so let me talk about what we're going to talk about. Now, before we get going, I do want to say that I'm not one to say, like, I told you so. I'm not that type. But I do want to re-show the video I did about the DSA back in November. And just like the Bolsheviks in the early part of the 20th century, who were like 23% of, the communists at the time, they rose and took power. And we see these people and we're like, they're idiots, they're morons, they're pasty white people with dreams of a communist utopia. Yeah, well, what do you think Marx was? He'd never stepped foot in a factory in his life until he started making, speeches in them. He was actually living off his father's will while his dad was still alive. So these are the same people, okay? I think Lenin was absent for the first part of the revolution. He was, exiled somewhere in Europe. I'm not a communist scholar by no means. But let's talk about New York. Now, New York is considered a cultural kind of lab or a cultural place where they try out societal policies and cultural things before they spread out across the country. So that's a key thing. Also, the ports here it's the largest port on the East Coast, is shared with New Jersey and New York. And when you run those numbers against like a scenario, like what would happen if New York City was, fell into hostile hands, like became a hostile territory within the United States against the United States. And eventually, let's say that happened, eventually things would level out. It would actually decentralize power because there's a lot of power centralized in New York. But it'd be pretty painful getting there. It'd be good for Texas. It'd be good for Florida because they'd pick up those ports. But it's the shifting of all those things that would be the big problem. Okay. And it'd be the upheaval, and it'd just wreck the economy for God knows how long, while they're trying to shift things around and decentralize, were that to occur. Now, I'm not saying that's going to occur, but those things can occur, maybe not all at once, but it's a slow boil. And it's the strategy that the Democratic Socialists of America have been using for a long time. We're also going to get into some of the other groups that we noticed here in Brooklyn. So Brooklyn, I think it's Brooklyn, Astoria, Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx are known as the Communist Corridor because those are the boroughs that are really in control of the socialists, especially Brooklyn, where I'm at right now. And I want to show you a couple clips. You've probably seen them on Twitter, but this is just like what the Bolsheviks did in Russia in the early part of the 20th century. They were the minority favored communist group. There are many other communist groups, and they just slowly took them over. Okay, they went in, cored them out, and then started purging. Or it's like the Night of the Long Knives with Hitler, where Hitler used thugs to get in power. Then he got scared of those thugs, so he had them taken all out. Or it's like 1948 Czechoslovakia, like I've talked about many times, where Stalin couldn't just take Czechoslovakia because he was warned by the other allies, hey, quit taking countries. You can't just do that. You got to have some elections or something. And when the nationalist president of Czechoslovakia came back, Stalin already had in place an actual group called the Democratic Socialists, who were actually Stalinists. He even had people on the right that were there to scuttle the right, to get them fighting amongst each other. Sound a bit familiar? Okay, it is what's happening now. Okay, so if you're not tuned into what's happened in New York, what happened was we had the Democratic primaries in New York. When was that, like Tuesday? And what ended up happening is the Democratic Socialists took some key positions, 2 congressional seats, a couple other things. But then the ones that are not named DSA, like the New Kings Democrats, the Brooklyn Young Democrats, Brooklyn Can't Wait, all these different, the Brooklyn Democratic Party, these are all socialists. Here's an example. I showed this the other day on Naomi and I show. So these are the people running in our district, right? Okay, and they're all Democrats. That's probably what you're thinking, right? But they're running in the Democratic primaries against these people. These are the incumbents, by and large. Now, I didn't notice this till I was on Naomi's show the other day, but what I did notice was the colors on these flyers. These are traditional Democrats. These are Mondami Socialist Democrats. Red, white, and blue, Mondami colors. And Ukraine colors, too. Could be a coincidence. But the point is, what they're running for is all the same stuff. They're running for what they call affordability. They're running for, affordability and pretty much anti-landlord, freeze the rent. Mondami's actually opening like a socialist grocery store, I think up in the Bronx, which will just be a joke because it's never worked before. And then transparency in government, which is funny because they hide behind different names. Ending all wars. And then we get really extreme with some of the key people that won. They start talking about things like abolishing the borders, abolishing the police completely. It's Chevalier. That's one of the girls out that won. It's just crazy loony town. But again, remember, the Bolshevik ideas were loony, and the Nazi ideas sounded loony. No one took Hitler seriously. He got locked up. He wrote Mein Kampf, came back. The economy had suffered greatly. And then he was able to rise to power. And yeah, we're talking about Nazis, but keep in mind that the Nazis were nationalist socialist or social nationalist, whatever they call them. Anyways, I'm ranting. Excited about this topic, not in a good way. There's some good news. We'll get to that at the end. But let's just start with what we were talking about back in the fall. And for the people that have been with me for a long time, it's they're taking this seriously because they've been following it. We've been saying for a long time that the Democrats are getting gutted out by socialists, and the Republicans have been infiltrated by what some people call MAGA Reich, others call MAGA communism. So on the left, what's happening is socialist communists are taking over from the inside out. On the right, what's happening is they're slicing and dicing division. Everyone's against everyone else. And on the right, it's important to say they're keeping everyone focused on the Epstein files. Where barely anyone on the right, or at least before the primaries here in NYC, we're talking about the Democratic Socialists, with some exceptions. Hat tip to Laura Loomer and the Lindell TV team. They've done some great work covering this, and they always have. But this is the important thing, because I'm not saying the Epstein files are not important, but what I am saying is this. If we lose the primaries to the Democrats, that's bad enough. If we lose the primaries to a Democratic Party that has been hijacked by globalist, murderous, and you'll see in a second, communists, that's a nightmare. That's literally the end of America, quoting the title of a book my wife wrote some time ago. And so I'm not saying, do not pursue justice. Don't stop pursuing justice. Of course, pursue justice for the Epstein files. We need to know where corruption lies. But we won't have that opportunity to even ask those questions if people like the Democratic Socialists or people who share their vision get into power. Because what will happen is they'll take out the Democrats, and then they will pick off the remaining Republicans. And they do aim to have the judiciary branch and the executive branch eliminated in favor of like a bureaucratic rule law type thing, just like every communist plan. But let's talk about, I did a little animation here, so forgive me. I hope, I think I could do better today, but this is back in November. And I'm just going to play it because I just want to make sure we didn't miss anything or for this tonight's episode. So bear with me here while I just share this with you here. Okay. This one was called The Reds Are Coming, and it's over on Rumble, episode 25111111. And by the way, hello everyone who's just joining us, but we'll get to your comments in about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I don't want them to go too long without addressing them. Here we go. So this, okay, let's do it. Well, good morning and welcome to Investigate Everything. Sorry this was so delayed. I've just been miserably depressed over everything that's going on in the world. I am your host, Brian O'Shea. This is episode 251111. And so you guys know, the reason I name my episodes that way is so you know which date I did them on. So this one was supposed to go about this country from slipping into communism, Democrats. They can trace their roots. So let me try to gather my thoughts. I've been a little under the weather. Okay, but so the Democrat Socialists of America, for those that don't know, that's the party that Mamdani in New York belongs to, who backed him pretty much. They are not Democrats. They can trace their roots back to the 1920s. And they've gotten people in Congress. That's where the squad came from. But what they really do is they start at the local council level, school board level. And now they've taken control of the country's most powerful city, New York. Before we get to the how can we stop them, I think we need to discuss what can we learn from them in order to mobilize true Americans to save this country from slipping into communism by way of groups like the Democratic Socialists of America. The communists cannot defeat America. They never have. But they won't have to so long as we continue down our current trajectory, which is basically our trajectory of defeating ourselves. So I'll leave it there. Now, before I get started, I just want to I'll do the ads halfway through. Okay. So why did I want to talk about this? Everyone's talking about the DSA. The DCA. And no, the DSA, Democratic Socialists, not communists, but they are communists. And really the only difference between socialism and communism is a lot of people that are just, they own an additional home, or they now by freezing rent, that rents or freeze rents in rent stabilized. We've seen a lot of things like let's talk about the rent stabilization. Okay, so the rent stabilization is an interesting topic because he wants to stabilize rents or freeze rents in rent stabilized units. What does that mean? Well, rent stabilization has been around for a long time in New York, probably before the 40s, I think, or around the 40s. And really what that does, it keeps homes affordable for people. Now, by freezing rent, that will keep landlords from being able to adjust rent to keep up with inflation. So what does that mean? That means landlords will stop upgrading their buildings, maintaining their units, that sort of thing. And by landlords, I don't want you to think of like Joe Pesci in the Super, whatever that movie was. They're out there, those kind of sketchy landlords. But there's a lot of people that are just, they own an additional home, or they made some money on a real estate sale and they bought an extra apartment in New York so they can make a little more money, probably to pay their new mortgage, because they are very expensive here. Now, why are they expensive here? Well, it's not Donald Trump's fault. It's not even Joe Biden's fault. They're expensive here because there's so many additional taxes that are levied against New Yorkers. So you got the idea. Let me turn my camera on. All right. So if you want to find that episode, I'll put it up in the description. Let me just minimize that here. There we go. But that was November 13th last year, and we got a lot of good research materials for those who are catching up, so you know where to look. Okay. Remove that. There we go. Okay, so let's start with the rents. Okay, so the goal of the Democratic Socialists of America and all the other socialists, not just the DSA, is to basically turn this into a communist country, but not a sovereign communist country. The goal is to turn the United States into part of a global communist, Hunger Games type scenario. And that is their true goal. They're talking about freezing rents. That's where it starts. What I'm going to show you tonight, just a taste, is a tenant meeting I attended, under pseudo back in February of the DSA. Okay. And, it's just something to consider, because if you take away home ownership from Americans, that's most people's mind included, our biggest source of independence, because that's where our savings is. That's our retirement. You take that away and we become dependent on, ironically, landlords, except those landlords are not private landlords. Those landlords would be the DSA if they're running this country, or the communists in general. And if you go back and you look at post-1950s Soviet Union, it was horrible. Like in some countries, you'd have two families in an apartment the size of our apartment here in Brooklyn, which is a pretty small apartment. You saw the main room there, and I'm in the only other room. And this is a very expensive place. But they would have like two families already in there, and then they'd pack another few families in there, because why not? What are you going to do? Okay, and there's a big long line waiting for the bathroom in your own home. And I'm not even exaggerating. I mean, that's literally what it would be like. So they're going after the landlords. It's a land grab, obviously. Okay, because how do you seize property? When you're seizing property, you gotta get rid of the landlords, and you have to get everyone dependent on you, so they join the fight or they get rolled over. They also talk about, the socialists, they talk about seizing means of production. I don't know how they plan on doing that. They haven't really laid out a good plan, but they are moving forward, and they're stumbling forward too in some cases, which can be equally dangerous. They break a lot of things. Okay, I want you to keep in mind that the primaries of the other night were not just New York City. They were also Washington, D.C. And then next week, they have primaries in Denver. And they've got some strong seated DSA candidates there. And for those that don't know, like the reach, the DSA is in 47 states and with tons of chapters in each state. And where their strength is, honestly, is their ground game. So being here in Brooklyn, which is like the heart of DSA, I mean, their main density is in Chicago, but you see them everywhere. Okay, and when Mondami was running, all you saw was Mondami supporters, thousands of them. They do the phone banks. We'll get into that. I got some Win Party stuff here from the other night. They do the phone banks. They go door to door. They've got the whole city mapped out, and they do it 365 days a year. And when they're not doing door knocking and phone canvassing, they're having social clubs. They have coffee with comrades almost every Tuesday and Thursday in multiple parts of the city and other cities. They're doing the 5K socialist run in Prospect Park. Okay, they're doing concerts, get-togethers, dating. They have daycare for their members. They have free martial arts for their members. I am not kidding you. Just go to the DSA website. I'll call it up in a bit. So what's that all mean? That means they're giving isolated people something to do and something to belong to. And that's a very powerful thing. And we have to take it seriously. Because what Lenin did was the same thing. They were constantly moving forward. And you don't have to take the whole country to take over a country. You just have to take the key areas, which are mainly cities. That's where the populations are. That's where economy is. That's why they're so focused on Texas as well, because that's the energy infrastructure down there. Okay. If you look at LA and Seattle and Portland, New Jersey, New York, that's all of our major ports with the exclusion of Florida. So you see, you got to think like, what do you need to take over a country? Well, you need to, take over the military. We've seen attempts at that by the placement of people by the Biden administration and the Obama administration into key staff roles. Obama did a major purge of the U.S. military and the U.S. intelligence community when he was in, and got, really started in the military, kind of forcing people to retire at 20 years if they didn't come from what he was looking for in the intelligence community during the Obama time. They started getting rid of veterans, and I'm a veteran. I was in the intelligence community. They started cutting contract positions and only bringing in people that they chose. And so that's the same way, that kind of Lenin did it, get people into key positions, pick off his opponents. All right. The other thing that Lenin did is and all communists do this, they like a parasite, they grab onto an existing political party. They did this in Czechoslovakia in 1948, and they take it over from the inside out. That's what's been happening with the DNC. So when I see people on X, and you know who you are, saying stupid things like, oh, that's what New York voted for. No, that's not what New York voted for. There is no Republican choice in this city. Okay, yes, we could choose to live somewhere else, but you should be glad we're here, because this is a major beachhead for communists. So we're all major cities. Okay, and if everyone flees and runs to the country, well, guess what? They control the ports. What are you going to do with your grain? What are you going to do with your livestock? We can trade amongst each other, but then you're going to have a perforated country, and then come our external enemies, and they just destroy us. Okay. All right, so there's that. Now, picking off the existing infrastructure, let's talk about that. We saw what happened. Dan Goldman got annihilated the other night. Dan Goldman was a rep here in Brooklyn for Congress, and a pretty far left guy. Okay, his chief of staff and Eric Swalwell's chief of staff used to hang out. Don't ask me how I know that, but the point is, pretty left wing guy. I mean, they're calling him a moderate, but he was not moderate. Okay, but he is Jewish, and he, like most Democrats and a lot of Republicans, takes money from AIPAC. So just like the far right, the far left, or the socialists have used this AIPAC argument as a scarlet letter to go after people. So you on the right who are sitting here chanting out, Israel's controlling Trump and Israel's this and Israel that. By the way, you're just parroting pre-1917 Tsarist propaganda. Okay? That's all you're parroting. I mean, most of the stuff I hear online comes from the scrolls of the Elders of Zion, which was debunked many times and dusted off and used again by people like Hitler. Okay, so the Jews control the financial system, the Jews control the world. So if you're on the right and you're doing that, you're actually helping the communists, okay? You might even believe in it. And I'm not telling you to like or love Israel. That's your choice. I love Israel. But the thing is, Israel's not controlling the world, okay? Israel can barely control their own country and their own territory. And yes, they have influence over our Congress, but who has more influence? The Chinese Communist Party, okay? Chevron, the Chamber of Commerce of the United States. These are the people that really spend money on lobbying. AIPAC falls somewhere in like the 50s, okay? And as far as foreign, like FARA lobbying, Israel's like behind the Bahamas and, the Solomon Islands. I mean, it's ridiculous that people just don't look at facts. They just run with it. And who's pushing it on the right? The Russians. Who's pushing it on the left? The Chinese. Both sides are taking their talking points from two communist allies who are enemies to the United States and who also have their hands right in the DSA. Okay, so they picked off Dan Goldman. Let's pull up some clips. Let's pull up some clips about this if you didn't see them. And let me just get that going here. And actually, before I do that, let's take some comments, because I love when you guys come on here, and I like to make this show interactive. So welcome back, Dawn Girl. Oh, yay, caught you live again. Yay, caught you live again. Aloha. She's in the People's Republic of Hawaii, so she knows what we're dealing with here. Mark's father was not happy with him. No, I wish I had that letter. There was a Glenn Beck read a letter that Marx's father wrote to him. and he read it on Father's Day. I'll try to pull that up before the end of the show. I've got nothing but time tonight. Okay, and and before I go too far, happy birthday to my son. He is, I won't tell you how old he is, but why am I not with him? Well, because his girlfriend threw a party for him, and he's a teenager, so not a place for parents to be. But happy birthday to him. I already said it to him personally, but I'm really proud of this kid. He's in shape. He knows what a communist is. He knows what a socialist is, and he's the one that educated me about a lot of Eastern Europe when he was 12. So great kid, and I'm very proud of him. Happy birthday to him. Okay, Renee Mitchell is running for. Hey, Glenn, how you doing? Glenn Tamir, running for Assemblywoman District 45, Brooklyn, New York. One of her main platforms is to abolish the. Oh, no way. Okay, you guys catching this from Glenn? Glenn, I got to get your info. Glenn, do me a favor if you're still on. Go ahead and put up your X handle so people can follow you. I want to read more. I did not know about this. So Renee Mitchell is running for Assemblywoman in District 45, Brooklyn, New York. One of her main platforms is to abolish the New York State Board of Elections. Okay. And just so you know, Glenn, I will get this, but I cannot copy and paste on this platform for that I'm streaming on. So if you can put your X up, people can follow you there, and make sure you put this very important URL up there. And I want to hear more about that too. Okay, and then he has another link here that you guys can see, and it's called Public Voting Transparency Amendment. Okay, yeah, we'll get those. We'll get all those up. I wish I could grab those. All right. So thanks, Glenn. I really appreciate that. That's Glenn Tamir. Glenn, go ahead and get your X profile up so people can find those links that you're putting up. And if you could post those links, we'd really appreciate it. Dawn Girl, abolish the prisons. Yes. And Dawn Girl, we're going to get into that, especially with the homeless thing that's going on here, which brings up some good news, but I'll save that for the end. Abolish the police. Yep, they're talking about abolishing the police. The DSA is already pissed at Mondami because he included the police in his budget. Like, they just wanted it to go away magically. So, yeah. And now the scary thing here in New York is the fastest growing department in the city is the Department of Welfare. And they deal with the homeless service, like homeless housing services, HHS or something like that. They have a multi-billion-dollar budget. They have a bigger budget than the fire department. It's insane. All right, anti-war. Yeah, I mean, anti-war, they're all anti-war, but they're not anti-war. That's the thing. They're anti-Israel. Why are they anti-Israel? Because Israel stands in the way of Russia and or China taking over the Middle East, which they've always coveted. Communists see Israel as an extension of the United States. They see you take out our partners in the Middle East, which is mainly Israel, but the Gulf states as well. And then we're cut off from the Middle East, which they've always wanted, because it's more than just oil. It's the Mediterranean. It's everything like that. Thank God. We've got Galactus, who is, I call Trump, and the Silver Surfer, who I call Marco Rubio. Couple chess moves ahead with the deals they made with Greece and Ukraine, Indonesia. So it's one hell of a game playing out. And you could see that in one of my other episodes as well. I kind of laid that out, how that's working. Glenn, would you like to arrange an interview with Renee? Please let me know. She's awesome. Yes, I would, Glenn. Glenn, let me go ahead and put my email right in the banners below. You're a welcome addition as a guest. We're glad to have you. And, of course, my existing audience, you guys are the best, too. So Glenn, email me right there. Would love to. Absolutely. Because I didn't even know about the board election things. They are violent revolutionaries. Yes, they are. And, we're going to talk about that, too. But the way they're violent is really interesting because, and that's what I talked about in the title, like the multi-headed hydra, whatever you want to call it. You got the DSA, you got Indivisible, you got the Party for Socialism and Liberation. That's kind of your violent wing. But what I'm going to show you tonight is some of these other parties are affiliated with other parties. So there's layers and layers and layers of these socialists. And I've traced some of them back to violence that occurred in New York City back in, I think, the 80s or the 70s, like actual bombing campaigns. So you hear a lot of global south coming from these people. The DSA used to look towards European socialists, like Gramsci is their main influencer. Okay, so if you go to any DSA site, most of their ideas are Gramsciism. And if you don't know who he is, he's the Italian communist that was jailed by Mussolini, but he's the one that talks about, getting into the institutions, the education, all that sort of thing. And but they kind of have shifted to following really radical historical revolutionaries of South America, okay, or what they call the global South. And that's really scary because that one of the last places the DSA was before Mondami's election was in Cuba. They were hosted in Cuba. I'll call up that tweet. A couple more comments and we'll keep going. Okay, so we got Renee Mitchell. Got it up there. Wow, nice. Just went on to our local DSA Wahoo website. And Dawn Girl, you know what I can do, by the way, Dawn Girl, is maybe on the next episode I will put a few of you in the green room so I can call you up if you want to present some of the stuff. That'd be really helpful to me. I'd love that. Okay, so let me know if you're interested. You got my email too. Rimpack is going on RT now and want to bash protests on July 3. I don't know what that is, but if you could explain it, please do. You DM me? Okay, good. I'll look for that, Glenn, definitely right after the show. Happy birthday to your son. Okay, awesome. I think I've seen that one of our candidates too. Yep. And the military. Yeah, so they look at the military and the police as the same thing. These are the military, police, the security force. That's considered one of the 5 pillars of society that communists want to tear down. I meant only the wars they disagree with. They okay with wars they agree with. Yeah, and they're okay with terrorist attacks because they say, well, they had to rape and murder and a bunch of innocent people and babies and even dogs because they've been oppressed. Actually, under Israeli rule, Palestinians have never had it so good. And if you know the history of the Palestinian refugee crisis, it really started after 1948, the Jewish Civil War, where really no Arab countries would take them. It's kind of like they left them idle, like everyone likes to talk a big game, but no one really helped them. The Syrians kind of let a lot of them in. But yeah, no one really helped them. And even in modern times when people are like, oh, the Israelis aren't letting the Palestinians leave, that's just not true. It was the Palestinians not letting the Palestinians leave, and it was the Egyptians on the other side of that gate that wouldn't let them through. Because most of these neighboring Arab countries claim, oh, our economies can't take it. No, what they don't want is the terrorists. Okay, they want the terrorists to just be condensed on top of Israel. And by the way, Israel, even for Palestinians, it's the only place in the Levant area where you're not going to get thrown off a building if you're gay. They had voting rights, and they're just so oppressed under Hamas, who they voted in. By choice, you can't really have a choice with Hamas, but you know what I mean. Ukraine, yeah, they're in favor of Ukraine. Now, Dawn Girl, if you saw my episode on Trump's grand strategy, I'm not for the Ukraine war. I think it's a big money grab under the Democrats. Strategically, it's kind of helping us right now because what it's doing is the Ukrainians are hitting that Russian oil infrastructure, which is constricting the flow of oil to China. So strategically, it helps us. But I'm with you. I've never been in favor of that, supplying the Iranians with really anything. I think the Europeans should be doing that. Cuba and Puerto Rico commies did a lot of bombings like the Weather Underground. We're going to get to it. You're going to see it. Okay, there he is. Everyone, I'm going to leave that one up, Glenn. And so everyone follow Glenn. This is some good information. I want to hear about that election boards thing. And by the way, Glenn, do you know when Mondami was running for mayor? I believe he was still on the board of elections. Let that sink in. Okay, so back to the show, and thanks for being here, guys. Oh, wait, one more from Dawn. Because fellas are violent. Yeah, they're very violent. Okay, they are very violent, and I've been to many countries in the Middle East. I speak a decent Arabic that I learned in the military. The Gulf states are great. Okay, let me just say the Gulf states are great. The Saudis, they're okay, but they're wound up pretty tightly too. Like I was stuck in Riyadh for like 5 days at the Four Seasons. Yeah, I know, poor me. But I was waiting for a client. I was doing close protection at the time, and the client was late. They were like 5 days late. So I was stuck in this hotel, which gets pretty boring. I found, no offense, Saudi Arabia, but I found it to be a pretty boring place. I didn't want to explore too much because I didn't want to get in trouble, get nabbed or something like that, and not be there for my client. But I went and ate some camel and went around. It was my first time in Saudi. You need a business visa to get there, and all we had was like coffee and cigarettes. Like, there's no alcohol, and that's fine, but there's also no women's bodies. Like, what can I say? I was single at the time, but it's like, I'm talking nothing. And you can't even find a copy of like I'm not into, pornography or anything, but you can't even find, what was that lifeguard show back in the late 90s? Baywatch. Like, you can't even find Baywatch over there. I finally just wanted something to watch besides Eurovision and, BBC and the 24-hour Kaaba station where you just literally watch people walk around the Kaaba for 24 hours straight. I needed something to watch. And so I read The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, hadn't seen the movie, so couldn't rent it, but I bought it. And it was like an hour long because they'd edited so much stuff out of there. It was insane. I was losing my mind. And when I met some of these moral police at the Four Seasons, and I'm having some coffee at 9 o'clock at night because there's nothing else to drink. And these guys come up to me and they're like, "Hey man, can you get us some alcohol?" And I'm like, "No." And I wouldn't if I could. Like, "Come on, man, you Americans, you always smuggle some in." I go, "Well, not this American." And I finally lied and told them I was a Mormon. But the point is, they were wound up tight. They were getting mad that they couldn't like bust me, and it's like, I'm like, everyone needs to stop drinking coffee here. So point is, yeah, lots of really angry people over there, and I think they're kind of kept in that state by their governments. Keep in mind, in the occupied territories, or whatever you want to call them, Gaza, those tunnels that were built are really nice. They're like airport, concourses. When there's bombings, they do not let the Palestinians in those tunnels. So you can imagine what it's like to live like that. You can't leave. You're got bombs falling on you. That the guys who, are supposed to be protecting you are the reason why those bombs are falling. Yeah, I guess I'd be angry too. All right, so Sharia law. Yeah, of course. All right, so what were we talking about the takeover. Okay, so let's go to Dan Goleman. All right, so if you didn't see the story, I'm sure by now everyone has. But let me just call up my bookmarks here on X, and then I'm going to share the screen with you. Okay, the first thing is Dan Goleman at Poetic. Let's call that up. Share this tab instead, and add to stage. All right, so here's Dan Goleman. All right.
Yeah, it was quite surprising, in part because I had such a nice interaction with the barista in the coffee shop. She was wearing a hijab. I didn't know her, but she couldn't have been nicer, and allowed my daughter to go use the bathroom. And I honestly was so grateful for her kindness that I felt like I should buy a coffee. And so I did, and I gave her a large tip. And it was diametrically opposite to that post that I came upon later, And it's a real sad, it's a reflection, I think, of a sad state of affairs that without knowing me, we could have had such a nice interaction. Two people, obviously from different backgrounds, different faiths, but that's what America is. And that's what New York City is. That is what I believe in. Yeah, it was quite surprising, in part because I had such a nice interaction with the barista in the coffee shop. She was wearing a hijab. I didn't know her, but she couldn't have been nicer and allowed my daughter to go use the bathroom. And I honestly was so grateful for her kindness that I felt like...
Sorry, that went on a loop. So that's what happened. Basically, you went to, I think it's Poetica. It's right across the park from me. And yeah, they just were nice to him. And then they put out this Instagram that said, don't ever come back or something like this. And look, I mean, I feel bad for Dan Goldman's daughter, not for Dan Goldman. I think he's a total jerk. But it should say something to people, too, that, 2 days ago, there was a protest at Poetica Coffee put on by Republicans. And I think it was, what is her name? Steve Bannon's person. But anyways, yeah, they were saying, no, it's wrong anytime. It's racism. Okay, it's racism. And it's, it's not about AIPAC. It's because he's Jewish. And if you don't believe me, here's more. Okay. And what I'd say is, Dan Goldman, come on, man. It's like, you must be a student of history. Like, how can anyone be surprised by this? Okay, because they pretty much have said it a million frickin' times, and it says it on their website, the DSA's website, that basically says we're going to, use the Democratic Party to take power. Now, here's another one, and this was at the DSA Win Party in northern Brooklyn. Let me show you this one. If you haven't seen it already, let me pause that, and I'm going to share this screen with you. These are all on X, by the way. I'll send you my bookmark list if you don't have it. Okay. So this is when Hakeem Jeffries was at the Win Party for the DSA, because the Democrats have deluded themselves into thinking, oh, we're going to have a big tent party, blah, blah. No, these people are not interested in Democrats. And anyone who's followed the DSA, or even this demographic, this young upper middle class trust fund baby, 20 to 35-year-old socialist core, they have been saying this for years now. I interviewed some of them at a No Kings protest in Salem, Massachusetts, and I said, hey, where do you get your news from? Do you get your news from the New York Times? No, screw that. We hate the New York Times. I said, okay, so you're a Democrat. No, I'm not a Democrat. I'm like, what are you? I'm DSA everywhere. They hate the Democratic Party. They hate the Democratic Party. They hate us, but, who doesn't hate conservatives? But they hate the Democratic Party, and some of the people that got elected basically said they've been throwing, barbs at like Biden and Kamala Harris and everything. And look, I know, we're all like, if you're a conservative, you're like, good, screw them. That's what they get. But I'm going to be honest with you, and this is not going to be popular, okay? I would rather have, maybe if they still exist, I'd rather have some Blumenthals and even Dan Goldman. I'd rather have them in office than socialists, than these crazy people. Because keep in mind, these are the people, even though DSA, there's nothing on the record of them supposedly causing violence, these are the people that dress like Hamas. These are among the people that dress like Hamas. They're alongside the the Party for Socialism and Liberation. These people get really violent, only in mass numbers, but they do. Okay, and they hate the Democratic Party. So this is Hakeem Jeffries. Listen to this. This is crazy.
You're next! You're next! You're next! You're next! You're next! You're next! Some other process before they could come in. You're next!
So they're chanting, "You're next." Okay, "You're next," when Hakeem Jeffries is on the screen. And Hakeem Jeffries and Blumenthal and all them, they're all acting like, hey, it's a Big Ten. We're diverse. We got some young radicals, and that was, now they're slowly waking up. But they should have woken up a long time ago. By the way, the whole squad is DSA. Okay, here. And then here's another one. Now, this one, honestly, this was like some brown shirt stuff here. So you guys, I think what's his name? Scott Wiener. So this is Scott Wiener in San Francisco. I think today or yesterday. Check this out.
Scott, I think your legislation on trans issues and your legislation specifically protecting queers on the sex offender registry is fantastic. Like, I really applaud you for that, and I think you deserve to be here for that. But I think your housing policy, and specifically your housing policy aligning with YIMBYs, and I think your policy, and I think your policy on the genocide in Gaza, and I think your policy on the genocide in Gaza is terrible. I think you do not belong here. I think you do not belong here. You do not belong here, Scott, anymore. It sucks because you've been wonderful. You've been wonderful for trans people, and you've been terrible. And you've been terrible. You've been terrible. You've been terrible on Gaza. You do not belong here anymore, Scott, and it breaks my fucking heart. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that someone who wrote good legislation for queers is so fucking terrible on Gaza. Scott, do you have anything to say? Do you have anything to say about Gaza? How could you do this to San Francisco? How could someone like you do this to San Francisco? Scott, say something. Redeem yourself. Do something. Scott, I want to like the person who had such good legislation on trans rights.
You're a piece of shit. We fucking hate
Scott,
you.
I want to support someone who's so positive on trans rights, but you're a piece of shit on Gaza. How could you do that? How could you betray queers? How could you oppress people?
You stopped being queer the moment you started supporting Israel, you piece of shit!
Damn. And what's really telling about that too is, like, except for a few people, most of the people in that crowd yelling at him are white. Now, if you don't know who Wiener is, he's like as far left as you can go. Okay, trans rights, everything. San Francisco based, pornography in the schools. Like, this guy should be everything they like, but he's Jewish. Okay, and a lot of people say, no, because he gets money. Dude, it's all because they're Jewish. Now, some might argue and say Brad Lander, who got elected too, in New York, he's Jewish, but he's already taking the knee, and they will eliminate him. Okay, they will eliminate him. I don't know if you saw it was pathetic. He's supposedly Jewish, and he started doing Muslim prayers in Arabic. It was sad. But the way it ramps up, the way that anger ramps up with them, these are broken people, and that brokenness about them, and they're self-broken. That makes them dangerous because on their own, they're nothing, but they're always in a mob. So, damn, I don't have it with me, but I'll show you it because I put it on my Twitter. I make a point in Brooklyn to walk through different neighborhoods with it's a hat that has an American flag / Israeli flag. And I had a custom embroidered back patch that says, "Don't tread on us," okay, because they are our ally, okay? And it's interesting because I don't get any pushback at all here in Little Caribbean, which are mainly people from, like, legal aliens from, like, Haiti and Jamaica, Dominican, those kind of places. Don't get any pushback. As a matter of fact, I got a fist bump from my Jamaican barber the other day. He loved my hat. And these are all working class, real working class neighborhoods, not DSA working class. DSA working class means you're working on ordering another latte at, not a Starbucks, of course not, at Poetica, or some other indie shithole. But the thing is, it's like it's the work to people that have been here, the people that own homes. Okay, those are the people that are not with the DSA. It's the people that are self-loathing losers, life losers, that get in bed with the DSA because they got nothing else going on. They've done nothing. They're highly educated, but they're just, I don't know, lazy, or they've been told, I guess they've been told that they deserve a lot. They're entitled. But that's where the stronghold is. And if you look at the maps of where DSA is strong, those are the people they get. And you could see a lot of these people, this is San Francisco, but it's the same thing. A lot of the people at the DSA are either young, overeducated and underemployable losers, or they're like kind of old hippies that are totally clueless. Okay, so, but this is dangerous because mobs have a way of taking fire and energizing off each other, and that's how they get violent. Not to mention how many drugs are legal in California, so that makes it a little scary too. And then here's another one. This just came out recently today. Check this out. But if this doesn't look like pre-World War II Germany to you, go back and look again. Watch this. This is Scott Wiener trying to sit down at a restaurant. This guy was a superstar literally just like a month ago. And it's almost like the socialists, they flipped the switch. They've activated. They're making their move. This is their night. This is their month of the long knives. Watch this.
Hey, bro. Hey, Wiener, you gotta get the fuck out my hood, bro. It's free Palestine here. You already know what it is. We against the genocide. You think you gonna come to my neighborhood, bro? You fucked up. You fucked up. It's gonna be a problem. There's innocent children being killed in Palestine. You gonna come here like it's good, but you're pushing that genocidal agenda as a Zionist, bro. Free Palestine. Say free Palestine right now on camera, dog. Say it. 2026. I don't need to talk about none of that shit. I'm talking to him. This is a mission district. You should be ashamed. You have no shame coming to my community. This is a mission district, homie. Free Palestine, bro. Hey, are you trying to defend him? I don't want to talk to you. I'm talking to him. Why are you not saying nothing? Why are you not saying nothing, bro? Why are you not saying nothing? Say free Palestine for the camera, dog. You say you're against the genocide, right?
Now, I just want to point out his, I guess that's his aide. She's trying to be reasonable. We're all from here. See, but that's not it. That's not it. You're either with them or you're against them. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican or you don't vote. You're with them or you're against them. And you got to check a few boxes. Got to be a renter. Got to hate Israel. Got to hate Jews. Okay, and you got to hate America. And that's the thing. So that's why they hate the traditional Democrats, and especially the Jewish ones. Goldman, Wiener.
What you said? Because you're running for office? Say free Palestine then. Say free Palestine. You can put your face on camera, but you can't speak on his behalf. You're a politician, right? You're a senator. You're a position of power. This is what you thought, bro. You come to the mission.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to get all chauvinistic here, but men in the audience, probably a lot of the women too, don't ever let anyone get in your face like that. Look, here's the psychology of a bar fight. And I've been in a lot. I've probably lost more than I've won. But the thing is, the minute someone crosses that mental threshold of getting in your face, you're going to get hit. So when someone gets in your face like this, start swinging. Start hitting them and keep hitting them until they stop moving. It's on you. I'm not advocating you get yourself in trouble, but don't get dead.
You will get called for the bullshit you do to our people. Maybe everyone here doesn't know what you've done, but I know. Mario Woods, Alex Nieto, Luis Gongora, when they were killed by SFPD, you didn't stand for them. You were silent. Silent as our people got gunned down in these streets. And you come to my community and you think it's okay? It's not okay, bro. It's not okay. Say free Palestine. I'm giving the opportunity to say that shit right now.
Don't say it.
I don't want to hear nothing but the words free Palestine. You can't say it. You still get APAC money because I heard you say you didn't, but then someone put it on you and said you did.
Not true.
Just say free Palestine. Are you against the murders of innocent children, innocent people getting killed in Palestine? If you are, then you will say free Palestine. If you're not, then you'll stay silent like you are. There's no other words. I want him to leave.
Okay, at this point, when they're putting their finger in your face like that, just grab the finger and break it or do something. Like, this guy Wiener should be on his feet. Granted, he's, Scott Wiener, but, get on your feet and get ready to defend yourself, because it's coming. Now, I think the only reason it's not coming in this case here, because there's other people around kind of defending him.
I want him to leave.
No, I think we all should have a
Hey,
conversation.
this my hood, bro. This ain't your hood. You're not from here.
Hood?
Where were you
San
born and raised?
Francisco.
All from here.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to him. You said free Palestine. See, y'all can't say free Palestine. I wanted to get kicked out of here, bro. Leave, dog. Hey, Wiener, leave, bro. You know what it is. You know what it is. Nah, bro. Nah. If I leave, you gotta leave with me, dog. Hey, bro. You think if you don't leave, we're not gonna wait for you outside? Say free Palestine. Mario Woods, Alex Nieto, Luis Gongora, all their names. Hey, y'all gonna have to kill me, bro. Free Palestine, motherfucker. Piece of shit.
I want to say congratulations, though. Major
Free
point.
Palestine, motherfucker. You piece of shit. Hey, if they kick you out, I'm gonna be on that back door in your helmet, bro. Leave, motherfucker. Leave. Leave. Hey, you owe me. You gotta leave, bro. Round 5, motherfucker.
I just got to say, like, not to bring it up again, but, like, it's sad that the women seem to be more brave than the men in that situation. Like, there's a big dude right on his right that should be up, and even if they're not at the same table, like, you got a guy coming in a restaurant you're paying a lot of money for, get him out. Seriously. Whereas, yeah, it's just, and this is why I bring this up, because this is why, like, the DSA is growing, is because the Democrats are placating them. Just like Wiener is placating this guy who's in his face. You know what, Wiener? You're probably going to get mauled. Probably going to get beat up, but at least you will be carried out on your shield, man. Like, seriously. Like, stand up, because one thing communists hate is when people fight back. Okay, they want people to cower like Scott Wiener was. But the bigger issue here is this is really dangerous. Like, these are elected officials getting attacked by their own party. And I wish I could sit here and say, hey, now you know how it feels. Same thing happened to a lot of conservatives, us included. But the thing is, it's like, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. This is communists trying to take over America. And it's not just San Francisco and the cities. They have designs not only on the country, but on the world. Okay. And taking over New York City in key positions like the mayor, this is a big deal. This is a big deal. This is almost 10% of our entire GDP. Okay, so let me see if there's any others on this subject. Oh, yeah. No, I haven't seen a lot of attacks on Fetterman yet, but what I wanted to also show you was okay, so watch this. Yeah. So, all right, so this is Allison Steinberg. She's over at Lindell TV. She's really good reporter. And, her and, a couple of the other reporters at Lindell TV, I call them the velociraptors of truth, because they're cruising around D.C. and in everyone's face constantly. But see, Blumenthal, who is a legacy Democrat, he's got the wrong idea. Listen, and they're going to pick him off as well. I guarantee it. I mean, look at his name. Okay, but she asked the right questions, but watch his response. Anyone who's dealt with bullies, and these people are bullies, okay? They might not be like the guy in the San Francisco restaurant, but they're bullies in the way they campaign. They're bullies in the way they shout people down. They're bullies in the way they targeted, the way Goldman was targeted by Brad Lander. That's what they do. And they're trying to surround Americans, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, with these communist bullies. And that's what communists were. They were just bullies. In whether it's Mao's China or Lenin's Russia and then eventually Stalin's Russia. That's what they do, is they just divide and conquer. And that's what they're doing, the Democrats right now. And Blumenthal's a smart guy. I don't like him. I've gone against him in some private issues for clients before. He's not a good dude, but he's a traditional Democrat. He's the devil we know. But listen to his response. It's pathetic and weak.
Senator Blumenthal, your reaction to the numerous DSA wins last night in New York, what does that mean for the future of America and, more importantly, the future of the Democrat Party?
I think that the infusion of new energy and new faces is very healthy for the Democratic Party. Obviously, ideologically, one part of the country doesn't necessarily represent the whole nation. And I think one of the strengths of the Democratic Party is our diversity. What happens in New York ideologically doesn't necessarily fit to the Midwest, but we are a big tent party.
Mm-hmm. So is it at all concerning that, more moderate members in the House like Goldman are now pushed out by these more radical extremists? I mean, isn't this a dangerous direction to sort of move toward?
As the saying goes, all politics is local. And what's local to New York isn't necessarily the same.
It's not local. It's not local, especially when it's New York, you idiot. And he should know. Okay, he should know because he's the one who's always bullying like hedge fund managers and everything if they're not putting a little dollars in his pocket. He knows damn well it's not local. He's just a coward. He's not willing to say, yeah, they're wrong. That's not us. Okay, let's keep listening. It's pathetic. I mean, honestly, it makes my skin crawl to listen to this guy.
I'm in Connecticut or Texas or North Carolina, and I think that the local races reflect a desire for energy and change in Washington, D.C., in the Congress with new leadership there under Democrats, not Republicans.
Okay, so you might, if you listen to a few more of these clips on X, just Google or just X search DSA. All the Democrats have been given a script. I guess they think this is their let's not piss off the socialist script. And he will mention chaos and I think the Democrats' problem, even with their own base, and look, I'm in Brooklyn. I get to talk to a lot of Democrats, okay? The big problem they have is this. They're still putting pins in voodoo dolls of Trump and their base are mainly like what they call I guess law and order Democrats, where they want different, they're not pro-ICE, but they're not pro-open borders. They're mainly homeowners, upper middle class, and it's a big base. And they do want police, okay? And, they're not down with the Democrats. They're not down with the socialists. And when you start placating the Democratic Socialists the way he's doing right here, he's alienating the base. And you know what they're going to do? There'll be two options for those traditional Democrat voters. Fall in line and go with the socialists, which they probably will. Or maybe, I don't know, the next ticket is something palatable for them on the Republican side. I just don't see a lot of lifelong Democrats voting Republican, okay? Hopefully, but I just don't see it happening en masse. So what he's doing with this weakness is he's giving the keys, at least to the left part of this country, to the socialists.
Dissatisfaction, the crisis of costs rising, chaos increasing, and frankly, corruption is what's driving a lot of these results.
Their corruption.
So is socialism a model that more moderate establishment Democrats are going to adopt now with the so-called affordability crisis?
She's awesome.
I think that the moderates in the Democratic Party are going to continue to emphasize the cost, confusion, chaos that we're seeing increasing in the Trump administration. That's going to be driving the results this November. And I think Democratic candidates are not going to be following the New York model or any other particular model. All politics is local. But what's common to all of these races is voter anger with the chaos that we see, the increasing costs, the corruption, the war in Iran, which is causing those costs to rise. And I think that's going to be a common thread.
And Senator, what's your reaction to the president coming to the Senate Republican lunch today? I know the Save America Act is going to be a big topic discussed. Any thoughts ahead of that?
I will tell you, I have never seen Republicans so angry with the Trump administration. Most of them are reluctant to talk about it explicitly. Maybe they will behind closed doors.
Okay, he's talking about
but
like Thune.
I will be fascinated.
He's talking about the guys
to
that got
see whether they
primaried.
have the
He's
guts
not most
to tell the
Republicans,
president
and that
to his face
reflects
what
in
they
the
have
War
been telling
Powers Act.
us about how angry they are
Yeah.
about this Iran settlement, with good reason, because the administration has given away its leverage. It has sacrificed its bargaining power by unfreezing funds and lifting sanctions in a way that I think eliminates any likelihood we're going to see strong inspection by the IEA, even if the Iranians agree to do something positive with their enriched uranium, which they have refused to do so far.
These Senate Republicans that you're speaking about, is this representative of the vast majority of Republicans in the Senate, or is this just a small handful?
I think that the vast majority of Republicans are deeply concerned and, in fact, angry.
You wish.
From all sides of the party, especially the more Trump-allied Republicans who have believed him that he's going to be tough on Iran. And now we see virtually a surrender. I'm all in favor of peace. I welcome the ceasefire. They've given away our leverage, and Republicans recognize that surrender is not the answer to Iranian.
I'm sorry, I'm way off topic. And if you're new to the show, and Glenn, hang in there, because Donnie will tell you, like, I'm all over the map. I am an ADHD poster child. It's just because I look at this stuff all day and I go on and I don't set a time. But the point is, weren't these people just saying to stop the war and have a ceasefire? And then there's a ceasefire, and now they're saying you're surrendering. I mean, like, they can't figure it out. And I've got to say, like, who votes for this guy? Like Blumenthal, I've been aware of Blumenthal, since like mid 2000s, like 2010, I think I ran against him. I was representing for the kind of work I do, a hedge fund that he had literally illegally targeted with the FBI. But there's nothing inspiring about these people. I just don't get it. Is it party line? And please, chat, talk to me. I mean, is it just party lines? These people are just like, honestly, like, when they get out of politics, they should form a corrupt politicians actors union, because they are all stereotypical, corrupt, boring ass paper politicians. Are gross. Donnie Girl says same talking points about rising costs. LOL. Yeah, right. It's rising costs. They're the ones that rise the cost. If you saw my last episode, I went into the oil. Okay, and I think Donnie had said oil came down. Yeah, they're all over the map for sure. But like, the thing is, the price of Brent crude has been coming down since March. Oh no, I'm sorry, April. I'm getting my May. It's like, it's been coming down since May, steadily. Okay. So Brent crude is coming down. If prices, anyone who's even walked by a book on economics, if prices come down, that normally indicates supply is up. Okay. So, supply's up. So, how much is the crisis affecting prices? It's not. It's like, if you look at the price of the average price of gasoline in the United States, in most of the red states, the average federal price of, if that's what it's called, of gasoline is like $1 and change less than the local price. So for instance, I was in Oregon not too long ago. Have some family out there visiting them. So me and my wife, we had to catch a plane out of Portland. We stopped at a gas station. Gas was astronomical. But then they list all these taxes that go on top of the, I guess, federal mandated price. And it was like $1.45 more than the federal price. I'm not joking. It was insane. I'm like, and then I was talking to the clerk, and I said, "What is the local area tax?" I think it was called, and he said, "That's for the homeless people." I said, why are they putting taxes on gas for a social issue? I get it if they put taxes on gas for highway repair, which they don't repair, but like the homeless, are you kidding me? So yeah, and part of me thinks because there is some slight variation if you look at the federal price of gas, there's a widening gap between like California, Oregon, Seattle, Maine, certain states where it's widening. So you know what that indicates to me? That indicates to me they're adding more taxes to the gas. Now, I've got to say, are the blue states, the deep blue states, keeping gas expensive so Trump doesn't have a victory, so Trump can't say gas prices are down? I kind of think they are. Let me know. If you do any research, let me know. Donna Girl's funny. Biden hit the all-time highest gas. Okay, just go to AAA's website. I'm not going to call it up again, but like, yeah, you could just look at the numbers. It's the same, lower, higher. Hawaii, everything's expensive. Hawaii, where everything is higher for sure. Again, I'll have to do it. Someday, Donnie, I want to do a whole special on spam, because aren't you guys like where spam became spam is like a military meal, right? Blue states, and it's on. I've never been to Hawaii. Been to 47 countries. Never been to Hawaii. Got to go to Hawaii. But I heard that spam is like on so many menus over there, which is cool. I love spam. Blue states gas price is higher, way higher across the board. There's not one blue state that's higher than a red state. I'm pretty confident in saying that. So Donnie says, yes, everything is higher. So, all right, so we've heard Blumenthal. I want to make sure I cover all my points. Okay, so talk about fractures here. Okay, so there's Jessica, and then, oh yeah, I just want to run this really quick while I take a quick break. We're going to talk about our sponsors after this, which are important, especially if you have like a lot of ticks and stuff in your area. But this woman here is Latina Brown, MPA. She says some pretty smart things. So while I take a quick 3-minute break, I just want you to listen to what she has to say. It's smart.
I don't understand why you guys are all surprised by Mondani's actions and him showing you his true colors. The guy literally campaigned and told you what he was going to do, that he was going to target the Jewish community, the white community, the Black community, and now the Latino community. He made no qualms about that. He told you with a Kool-Aid smile on his face. He wants you all to leave so that he can replace every single person with his demographic of people. All of these people that you see running for office on the DSA line, Black and brown, they're just puppets of the DSA left-wing commie party. These people are flown in from other states that come from privileged backgrounds. They have money, and they don't relate to the working class people. These are people that went to private schools with tuitions that's $20,000 plus a year. You think that they care about your wants and needs? You think they care about crimes in your neighborhood? They want to put more of that into your neighborhood. This is like basically, it's like slavery all over again. I'm being real with you. I'm being real. I know it's a terrible term to use, but it's like you're shackled to a party that's been infiltrated, number one, hijacked by commies, hijacked by left-wing radicals, and they want to keep you in a situation where you are vulnerable, weak, and basically suffering. Where is the success in that? All I see is disaster on top of disaster, and you're gonna see, those of you that live in blue cities and blue states, you take a good look at California, you take a good look at Chicago. Do you see that they're prospering? Do you see their economies? The economies is failing tremendously. Businesses have left. New York is getting a taste of it heavy. And we're the largest city in the world, in the nation. There is no reason why we should be taken over by a radical DSA group. And I hope that the Dems get it together, because you're not going to make it in the midterms. I'm going to be real with you. You continue on with letting the DSA run on your party line, hijack it. It's your party's being taken over by radical Islamic groups. And let's keep it real. And this is not me being racist or Islamophobic. We have to call it for what it really is. It is a mass takeover, and they're not here to assimilate. They're weaponizing and using the party to push their own agenda. And the one that you should be concerned about is Linda Sarsour. She made no secret about what her plans are, and she's going state to state to recruit these people. It's an attack on our government.
Yeah, she's right. And the thing is, now this is the interesting part. Now, I haven't seen the show today, but I saw my colleague Drew Allen over on dailyclout.io, and definitely check out his show. He was talking about how the Muslims are using the DSA and the socialists to seize power. Now, this makes sense. And I've been wondering about this for a long time, because the thing is, they have different strategic goals. Okay, so communists are atheists. Okay, Marxists are atheists. Marxism, is the influence of all communism, whether it's Leninism, Trotskyism, Gramsciism, and Maoism. Underneath it all is Marx. Okay, Marx hated God. He literally hated God. He has poetry about how he cut a deal with the devil. It's crazy. But the thing is, it's like they're Marxists, communists are atheists. So you have atheists aligned with the Muslim Brotherhood, basically. Their beard is CARE, the Council on Arab and Islamic Relations. But you got to wonder, and I don't want it to get to that point, but let's say, moving forward, we all lose. Democrats get wiped out. That looks like it's happening. And then the Republicans, because we got to get our act together too, okay? I say Republicans, I mean conservatives. I mean MAGA. I mean people that put America first. I don't mean rhinos, okay? But nationalists, populists, true Americans is what I'm talking about. That's what I am. That's what I consider myself. We got to get it together. We have to make politics it's got to be a part of our life. Just like those 10 push-ups you do in the morning that you do 20 the next week and everything. We do this kind of Super Bowl model of politics on the right that is going to really bite us. Because then what happens, okay? It comes election season, and we're all running around trying to get it together, get rallies together. And, the Democrats, the socialists, they're already rolling. So what do you think? It's my opinion that those No Kings protests that seem to have no goal, they have no stated aims. I think that's just engineering. Like, that is conditioning their side to get out on the street at a moment's notice, and it works. So it's not hard for them to get a bunch of people in one place, and they're constantly practicing massive rallies, from the logistics to the CRMs that run them, such as Action Network, where, you plug in Action Network, which is the financial wing is ActBlue, and it's like rallies on demand. You put out your rally, you put out your cause, it comes with hashtags, connects to your Google Drive, where you already got the signs. Those signs can be digitally delivered to the local Kinkos. There's a Kinkos plug-in on Action Network. So when your protesters show up in the spot, all the signs are printed out. They have Uber plugins, they have Lyft plugins, so you get your protesters where you want them to go. Hell, they even have Uber Eats and DoorDash widgets in these CRMs, so you can feed your people. So they're really good at organizing because they do it all the time. We're not really good at organizing because we don't do it enough. Now, with some exceptions, Scott Pressler, Charlie Kirk, God rest his soul, when he was doing it, Charlie Kirk got it. Okay, he got it. Charlie Kirk understood the model of things like the DSA, and he was doing it with Turning Point when Charlie Kirk was in charge. He knew how to organize. He knew how to get people excited, and I do believe that's why they killed him, because he was a direct threat. He was taking people from the socialists. He was taking those young people from the socialists and getting them excited about being American. Okay, so we don't have anything since Charlie Kirk that's like that. You go to a CPAC rally, I've been to one, wasn't impressed. Love Trump's speech, of course, but I went there and it's like everyone on stage was like old like me. Okay. And it's like, I was kind of in the young crowd, but it was like, and I'm not saying ageism or anything, but like I noticed like on the conservative side, we're just not diversifying. And yes, I'll use the word, who's representing us. Okay. Because the only people you see that get the spotlight are the same old silver-haired men and women that we've always seen. And that's not attracting anyone. Now, the marketing of that Trump's doing as a president, not as a Republican, he's cranking up the testosterone. He's cranking up the awesomeness of America. I thought the show at the White House was amazing. The motocross was my favorite personally. I used to do MMA. I actually had a website called MMAmadness.com. It was the first ever fantasy MMA online thing you could play. But that was back when you had multiple leagues. It wouldn't work today. And that was back just when Dana White had bought UFC. And he used to make fun of us. He used to call us fanboys. We were not fanboys, Dana White. Love you. Love the sport. And I did do some MMA, not MMA, but some mixed martial arts training in the military. So more than a fanboy, my friend. But the point is, Donald Trump's getting people excited. Donald Trump makes people excited, but that's a single point of failure. Okay? And while we have the Lindsey Grahams out there and who is that guy? Damn, I always forget him because he's disgusting to look at, but help me out, Donnie. Who's the old dude with the, he used to be the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell. I mean, come on. Get that guy off camera. Get all these people off camera. Don't let Thune talk. Thune is like a cookie cutter, ballless rhino. I mean, seriously. Don't ever let Lindsey Graham on camera. He's half in the bag. Every time he's on camera, he always looks drunk. You need those young people out there. You need more young Republicans and more young Republicans representing conservative values. Not Republican values, conservative values. Because, look, anyone that has kids, in their 20s, or is recently in their 20s, men and women want a mission. They want to be part of something. They want a crusade. They want the hero's journey. They have to give that to people on the conservative side. That's what the DSA is doing. They're giving people empowerment. They are. How do I know this? Well, my fake me belongs to them, has joined them. The fake me. I haven't paid money. But the thing is, it's like I see what they do. Like, for instance, how many of you get those auto texts from the Republicans? I hate those. I got one from J.D. Vance the other day, and I'm like, dude, you're going to auto text me? Like, I just erase them and I block them. And I vote Republican. I do. But the difference is on my burner app, a great app, by the way, if you want to help me infiltrate the DSA. Use Burner. Don't give out your real phone. But here's the thing. I get these texts. Let me see if I got one. So I fake joined the DSA with my fake me some time ago. And, I get these texts from them, like if an event's canceled. And they're from a human being. And granted, they're a lot smaller, but take the time. Get interns. Have people text them, even if it's an intern. If I got an intern from J.D. Vance's crew, and it said, "Hey, this is Allison or this is Tommy or whatever," just want you to know that there's a rally in your area. I'd love you to come. That'd be great. That'd be kick-ass. And then I text back, and they said, "Oh yeah, no, I understand. If you need transportation, we could do it. Where do you live?" And I live in Salem, but I think I got one here. Let me see. Chats. Yeah, so check this out. So it says, I'd missed an event, right? And it says, hi, me. I won't give you my fake name. Nice to meet you. This is Molly with the PSL, the Party for Socialism and Liberation. We'll be holding this event at Drip Cafe in Flatbush this Sunday evening. Hope you can make it. And I was like, I hope I can too. And then she says, oh, well, definitely, and if you need like an Uber or anything. And I said, well, I have an Uber app. Does anyone else need a ride? And she's like, you're a true comrade. Okay, I'm not bought into that because I'm 52 years old. But imagine you're some kid from Wisconsin. You went to NYU. You got locked down during COVID. Okay, you got no friends. You're a what do they call them? Incel. So you involuntarily celibate, I think it is. You just have, it's hard to make friends in the city. I'm not gonna lie to you. If you don't have some old school Gen X, social grace like I do, it's hard to go out there and make friends in the city. It's a scary city if you're not used to it. So a lot of these people don't leave their apartments. A lot of these people live online. But then comes the DSA. Like, come on out, man. Come on out. Hey, we're pasty and flabby too, but that's okay. And you go, and this is what communists do. They bring you in. And then you're part of something. And then they take it a step further. Then within 3 weeks, like what happened to me, you're put in charge of a committee. You're in charge of something, and people are listening to your ideas. And all of a sudden, you feel like your degree in underwater basket weaving from NYU actually means something because people praise it. See, but that's what they're doing. That's how they're getting the youth. And that's something that conservatives are not doing. And that's something that the old school Democrats are not doing. There's this expectation of like, they don't need to sell the youth anything. Well, you do. Because right now, most Americans under 25, I'm taking a guess, but I'm guessing I'm right, probably don't know who Abraham Lincoln was in terms of as a president. Probably don't know who Frederick Douglass is. Probably don't know why we had the War of 1812. Probably don't know even the history of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Okay? Probably don't know what Zionism is. They probably don't know basic economics. But that's okay with the communists because they tell them, hey, you're okay, I'm okay. And I've been to these meetings. I've been to a coffee with comrades, and I'm telling you, it's a warm environment, okay? They're not showing up in Antifa masks. They're not very attractive, and they don't smell great. But the point is, they're really nice people on the surface. And most of them don't think they're doing something diabolical. They really believe in it. I'm going to show you an example of that. You can see the excitement in them. And I'm against it. I'm against everything they believe in. But I get why people buy into it. I have kids in that 20-some-odd range, and they do kind of buy into it, and these are well-educated kids. Okay? They're not with them. Okay? They're smarter than that. But they don't see why I don't like them so much, because they also have no idea what communism is. They have no idea the results of communism. We do, okay? We've never lived it, but for those of us Gen X and older millennials, we know. And then for those of us like me who've traveled and spent significant time in former communist countries like Macedonia, Montenegro, Georgia, Russia, I used to speak for Students for Liberty. I used to be one of their keynote speakers. And so I've been and I've talked to all these young kids over there. And you know what the young kids in their 20s in those Eastern European bloc countries say to me? They always come up to me and they're like, hey, Mr. O'Shea, I got a question for you. Why are American kids our age even messing with communism? Do they know what it is? I'm like, unfortunately, they don't. Okay? But that's what the DSA is giving people and groups like the DSA. And I got to say it, it's like I've been in Brooklyn for many of these big elections, except for my good friend Jimmy Wagner and the Donald J. Trump Club of Brooklyn. No Republicans are even trying here. Okay. And then even Cuomo, the traditional Democrat who ran unsuccessfully, for mayor, no ground game. He shows up in his, like his entourage, after a nice lunch in a suit. Suit's fine. I like that. But they're not out on the street. But I go out on the street for these primaries. And I've got to say, these people, these socialists, they're out there. This lady here, I had a half an hour conversation with her. Okay. And she's out there. She's doing the work. And people see that. And remember, New York City is not one big mass. New York City is dozens and dozens of mini cities that stick to themselves. And these people have learned the anatomy of the city and they know how to move through it. That's how Mondami won. He did viral videos where he's in every single, not only borough, but every neighborhood within those boroughs. Okay. And he knows the names of them, which took me a long time here in Brooklyn to know what Prospect Lefferts was or Crown Heights and all that. I didn't see any of these people. None. None of them were out. Okay. And these might as well be, even though they're Democrats, might as well be the Republicans of New York City. Okay. The conservatives of New York City. They're conservative for New York City. I didn't see any of them. These people, all of them. And even though these people say they're not DSA, they're DSA. Okay. They're DSA. They're out. Okay. So I don't think the socialists can win, but I definitely think Americans can lose if they don't do the work. Okay, it's kind of like those, don't take offense, I used to say this about the Buffalo Bills. Okay, I'd always say no one actually ever beat the Buffalo Bills, they beat themselves. Okay, and we lose these things because, except with some exceptions, hats off to like Scott Pressler, who's never stopped, he gets it, he's always out there. A lot of, I would say the vast majority of Americans are not taking this seriously enough. And we now have the largest socialist organization in the history of America. They hit 100,000 right before Mondami. 100,000. No communist or socialist, whatever you want to call them, no organization of that type has ever been this big in the United States. And again, I'll say it, in 47 states. Okay, 47 states. Now look, they've got some sticking points. They're not unstoppable. They do not do well in Staten Island. They do not do well in areas of the country where people own homes. That's good. So what do? And this is what they've been doing. They get into zoning commissions. They get on the zoning boards. They raise your taxes. They force people to sell their homes. Okay, that's how they do it. Because they know they got to get people out of home ownership to really pick up the people they can't pick up. And that's what they're doing. Okay, and I live in Massachusetts and New York. I'm in the bluest of the blue. Okay, and I see it's the same play every time. The last zoning meeting I was on, because they were trying to turn my parking spot, which is a lot. It's beautiful in Salem, Massachusetts. It's a tiny lot. I have a deeded parking spot, so does my upstairs neighbor. And some developer was trying to cram a house into there. And I'm watching this board, and they're all in their 20s. And thank God we, as a community, organized to make sure we're there. Okay? But these people were all in their 20s. They were all DSA. And they were like, it's so great that we can get some more migrant families stuffed into homes. I'm like, no, it ain't great. And everyone in my neighborhood, just so you know, except for me and my wife doesn't really, she's lifelong Democrat, but she doesn't really attach herself to either party now, but she's a Trump voter. We're the only non-Democrats probably in the zip code. I'm not kidding you. Okay, I walk outside, I got my big American flag. I'm in a multifamily, I own the bottom floor, got neighbors on the top floor, they're in their 20s. They dress differently than I do, let's just put it that way. They got their big rainbow flag. I got my guy next door, he's probably pushing 80. Old union guy, total lifelong Democrat, but old school Democrat. Can fix anything though, great neighbor. But the thing is, that's my neighbors. But we all came together to push this out. Because we all realized they're not listening to us, they have an agenda. And we had to hire a lawyer to stop this house from going in, even though we proved that the house was lying about their dimensions. And they tried to not even put my parking spot or our parking spots on the plans. And we're like, whoa, time out there, Jack. What are you going to do about it? We own those. You can't just take them. But they'll try. Okay. And that's the thing. So the point is, like, they're everywhere. Okay. And their sticking points, again, are home ownership areas. That's why they don't do so well in Staten Island. But they'll find a way around it, because one thing about communists, they never stop. They never, ever, ever, ever stop. They just keep going. They are literally like the Black Knight on Monty Python, or worse, the White Walkers on Game of Thrones. They never stop. So we can't stop. Because every time we take a break, it's like Apocalypse Now. I know I'm quoting a lot of movies. I love movies. But remember, what was it? Martin Sheen. He's talking about Charlie, or the Viet Cong. And he's like, R&R, huh? He goes, R&R to Charlie is nothing more than some extra rat meat and some cold rice. That's how the communists roll, even the upper middle class ones. They are, and just go look at the DSA calendar. Every single day, there's something you can do if you're in a big city with the DSA every day. And don't worry about childcare. They got you covered with the red diaper baby service. No kidding. That's what it is. All right. So what do we got here? A couple more. I'm going to have to do another episode because it's getting late. Spam Masubi. Let me see. McDonald's has spam. Oh, yes. Oh, Spam Masubi. Got it. Back to my spam comment. I love spam. McDonald's has spam platters with rice. That's freaking awesome. Spam platters with rice. This is my comment. The hashtag I had to take from that lady. Kool-Aid smile. That's Mondami. Kool-Aid smile, man. Masubi. Okay. He seems to be missing RT now, too. Okay. 100%. Okay, stepmom. Oh, wow. So, yeah, you probably tuned into my CCP episodes. Definitely. And definitely check out my Trevor Loudon interviews. I love Trevor. He's great. But yeah, I'd like to get your perspective. It'd be great. Like, I don't know if your mom is with us. I hope she is. Love to interview her. Actually, did not know that what Zionism was till a couple of years ago. Admittedly, neither did I. I had no reason to know, but yeah. They work for the government, unions too. And not all unions are bad. Okay, not all unions are bad. I'm saying that in the city. Things in the city, like being a conservative in a city, it's different than being a conservative in a flyover state or a rural area. Like if you're running for office in the city, and talk to Jimmy Wagner, he was on an interview with me. He runs the Donald J. Trump Club. The issues you have to address in the city are things like public transportation and affordable housing. You have to. It's a lot different than being, in a rural area or flyover state as a Republican. But that's okay. You just learning how to be nimble like that. So unions are huge here. Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, we got to do a Hawaii special for sure, because I know little about it, but I know it's a huge stronghold over there for these people. When the Irish came to New York, yeah, that's true. Yep. NYPD. She lives in Illinois with my dad. My dad's retired Air Force. We won't hold it against him as an ex-Army guy. Do not tell him I said I called it the Chair Force. Just messing with your dad. Little inner uniform humor. Okay, so here we go. If the funds dried up, would DSA leaders be as enthusiastic? What is the source of their funding, and why isn't it being investigated? Well, I did investigate it, Donna, thanks for joining us. They don't, there's funding, but here's the thing. There's not a lot of cash, okay? Like these people, most of these people don't get paid. Like, believe it or not, a lot of the people you see on the street don't get paid. And I've covered paid protesters before. So yes, I know, protest organizers get paid. There's a lot of ACLU out there that get paid. But, the people I'm talking about at Coffee for Comrades, going to the 5K races for the DSA and all that, they're not getting paid. They're part of something, and they're drawn to that. And that's better than currency for them. They have a social life. And that's hard. I wish they were all getting paid, because then it'd be easy, cut off the funds. Now their funding is like donations are processed through Act Blue, okay, and that will cause a hiccup when it's shut down, because it probably will be, but it's under investigation. But the thing is, there'll be another one. It's just it's not that hard to replicate. So it's not about the funding. What it's more about is, okay, I was in a kind of job, kind of like propaganda. I can't go into the detail. Back when I was in the Intel community as a contractor, I did that for a decade and a half. And I would always tell people from state, like, I can counter terrorism all day long, and I did it extremely well. Okay? I can own the message. I can own the reality to make you feel in your core, if you're a young Gulf State guy, or even a Levant guy, or from Egypt. I can make you all know that joining a terrorist group's a bad idea, and you're a loser if you do. I could convince you of that, and I did. Millions of people. But it's for nothing if there's not a net to catch them. You can push someone off an idea, a bad idea, like communism or socialism or terrorism. But if there's not an alternative, once you push them off of that, they'll just go right back to it. And right now, a lot of young people who are unfamiliar with anything but kind of liberal type of politics, they don't see they have anywhere else to go. And so communists are famous for this. They provide that net. They're like, come on over, man, we got you. It's the same thing gangs do. Okay? It's the same thing gangs do. And it's the only way to combat these things is, we can cut off the funding. We can influence them we can educate them and say, communism is really bad, don't do it. And it does. But young people especially, or isolated people, are easily drawn in, because if they don't have a strong belief system or a community or a belief system will find them. Okay? And that's a big thing. So I hear you, cut off the funding, of course, but it wouldn't matter with the DSA, because they don't really have a lot of funding. They are not a political party. Okay, they're a 501, I don't know if they're C3 or C4, but when you look on there, there's legit donations that come in, and I'll show you a video here. Mutual aid regulation, fundraising funds them. Yeah, but again, I was in a spice room and they pay dues too. Yep. So they pay dues, but really where they do get like those in-kind type donations, or those soft, is they do get logistical support from like the People's Forum. That's Roy Singham's outfit. So they have office space and everything that's basically free. Okay, they get different ride shares will donate vouchers to them. So it's kind of like gifts, you know what I mean? It's not liquid. So it's really, really hard to trace. But again, unless you're, if you're not familiar with New York City, it's not hard to get anywhere. It's dangerous to get some places depending on who's on the subway. But like, I always have a choice. I can walk. Which I do a lot of walking here. I could get a city bike. I get an e-city bike. I could get an Uber, but that's really expensive. Or I could take the Q train up to Midtown Manhattan and be there in half an hour. And the point of saying that is I can get to a social club or a group and be part of something really quickly, anytime I want, 7 days a week. If I'm a DSA member and I go to their calendar, I'm like, what's happening here? And if it's not happening in Brooklyn, it's happening somewhere. Want to take karate? I get free karate lessons. That's what they do. And people do volunteer their time. I forgot her name. She blocked me. I don't know why, but there's a girl that like teaches people about the left and how they think. And I agree with her. And what a lot of people don't understand is that, and you should understand it if you have like teenage kids or kids in their 20s who are single, I don't have to pay my son to go have a group of friends. He craves having a group of friends. Okay, I don't have to pay my daughter, who's an adult, to go meet up with her friends and do something. They don't have to pay her to canvas because she's doing something. That's the name of the game. It's like they know people want to get out of their tiny apartments and go do something and be part of something. You don't have to pay them, and they don't a lot of times. Carolyn, let me see. They have jobs, too many unions. Okay, I'll read the comments later. I don't want to get disrupted. I've got a few more. I did promise a couple connections here, so I do want to talk about, I said terror connections, but first let's talk about Richie Torres. So if you don't know who Richie Torres is, Hassan Piker, who's been hanging out Chevalier, I think he's sleeping with her. She's the lady that got elected here, the DSA lady, and she actually appeared with Hassan on their win party online the other night. But Richie Torres, I'm going to pull up his site here. Again, real lefty. Here he is. I'm just getting to his actual website, wherever it is. Oh, yeah, and as I'm looking for this, by the way, they're already putting up the Richie Torres APAC things. Okay, where to go? Richie Torres. There we go. God damn it. Hold on, guys. Sorry about that. Website. Okay. This is so weird. Are they like... I literally could pull up his website earlier, and it's getting buried under all these brand new like websites here. Holy moly. Just a second. Okay. All right, we'll go to his Richie Torres for Congress page. All right, let me share this. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this guy, Richie Torres, real lefty, big time lefty, traditional Democrat. He's Bronx candidate. That's his district there. Okay, and if you see his, let me see, his policies, like Richie Torres, I can't stand him. Like he's very, very, very liberal for even a liberal. Okay, but the other night, Hassan Piker said, hey, Richie Torres, you're next. You're on the list. So check this out, guys. This is crazy. I take the dog for a walk. I'm in the Prospect Lefferts area, which is just about a mile away from the heart of the communists, which is mainly Park Slope. And so I take a walk yesterday with the dog, and I didn't see any of these things I'm about to show you. And then I take a walk today at about 10 o'clock, and check this out. What I saw, it just blew my mind. All right, let me see here. I got to find it. Okay, and I do apologize. I had to restart my computer a few times because the internet was acting weird. Okay, here we go. DSA folder. Hold on. But yeah, basically, so Dan Goldman had a bunch of stickers. So big thing in the city, you know, if you know New York, you know this. Big thing in the city is posting stuff on, you know, billboards, poles, on the walls, everything like that. Okay, so I started seeing these. These started popping up today. Okay, and I saw this on. I'm just gonna share. Let me just share the. No, I'll just show you. Okay. So then all of a sudden I see this on a garbage can. Okay, and brand new sticker. Wasn't there the other day because I do like garbage can and telephone and posting bills watch. And then another one. And so that was at Flatbush and Bedford. And then I'm walking further down the street, and I see this one. Okay, so this is another signpost in Brooklyn. This is, I believe, Flatbush and Parkside, maybe. And again, these are real cluster areas. I'm walking, oh shoot, is that another Richie Torres thing? But yeah, it is, because this is what I saw. Okay, we get closer, and there it is. Richie Torres voted for pro-ICE legislation. I mean, Richie, come on over to the conservative side. We'd love to have you, at this point. But that's their thing now. So that tells me, too, the fact that these brand new stickers went up today. Richie Torres is on the block. Okay, they'll be going after him next. They want the Bronx. That's their third strongest area in New York. They want Richie Torres, and they're going to use the pro-ICE thing. That means if the DSA is using the pro-ICE thing, okay, we're going to have more anti-ICE riots, without a doubt. And just as an example, before Goldman's, for a year before they went after Goldman, we were seeing these. And I took a picture of this one here, which is still up. But this is what they were doing to Goldman here. Compromise, APAC watch. That's how much you got from APAC, according to the sticker. These are still all over the neighborhood. And they put them on every telephone pole, on cars, everything like that. You cannot miss it. So Richie Torres, he's next, okay? All right, guys, before it gets too late, I've got to talk about our sponsors, because they're the ones that make this possible and make me give you 3 hours of my rambling. I like to think of high IQ knowledge, even though you have to kind of arrange it yourself after you listen to it. But let's talk about the Wellness Company. Great sponsor. Let me get Dan Goldman off my screen. Okay, so the Wellness Company. When credible doctors start paying attention to repurposed medications, it's worth asking why. Dr. Harvey Risch, good friend of mine, former professor of epidemiology at Yale and now serving on the President's Cancer Panel, is helping lead that conversation. A new groundbreaking observational study from the Wellness Company analyzed the off-label use of ivermectin and mebendazole in nearly 200 cancer patients, treated by licensed doctors across cancers like breast cancer, prostate cancer, lung cancer, and colon cancer. After 6 months, 84% of the patients experienced clinical benefits, including stabilization of the disease, tumor regression, or no evidence that they ever even had cancer at all. And this was not lab data, of course, but this is real-world patient experience. And when observed by someone like Harvey Risch, if you look him up, you can still find, if he's on the Wellness Company website, you'll see what I mean, like top-notch, like beyond belief doctor. He's so incredible that like the last director of the CDC refused to debate him on the COVID efficacy of the vax. Anyways, this is not lab data. This is real-world data and patient experience. Dr. Risch, chief epidemiologist at the Wellness Company, called it an exciting signal, deserving serious scientific investigation and more accessible, lower-cost cancer care options. That is why the Wellness Company makes it easy to access an ivermectin mebendazole formula using medications that are already FDA approved for other indications and are being studied for additional use. It is doctor prescribed and USA compounded, meaning mixed here in the USA, and designed to support patients exploring these emerging approaches under medical guidance. Ordering is simple and fully digital. Just fill out a quick intake form, a licensed doctor reviews it, and your prescription ships directly to your doctor. Head to dailyclouthealth.com. Let me put up the banner. There we go. All right, scrolling along the bottom there. Head to dailyclouthealth.com and save. You are okay. Head to dailyclouthealth.com and use code dailyclout to save up to $60 off and free shipping. And check out their other products while you're there too. I always got to push those. I love their emergency kits. I've got the blue one, the medical emergency kit. It is packed with doxycycline and all sorts of antibiotics. You basically, the way it works is you go to dailyclouthealth.com over, and that'll take you to our linked Wellness Company site. And the way it works is when you order these kits, you just fill out the intake form, anything like that, and then you have to show it's you. But basically, you could pick up the phone and talk to a doctor, or you could just order the kit. And the kit's going to come with pre-prescribed things like amoxicillin and ivermectin and, doxycycline, which is big if you live in a tick area. And you get enough pills where you don't have to call a darn doctor every time you need like one pill. Like you ever get like a thumb, like I hit my thumb with a hammer the other day. Man, it got so infected. And I dealt with it myself. I did it old school. It's pretty gross what I did. It grossed my wife out. But basically I cut it open, jammed it full of peroxide, and then I used super glue as a stitching. But the thing is, like, that's pretty dangerous. I could have still gotten an infection. And prior to doing that, I was getting an infection. My thumb got huge. And I didn't want to deal with it. And the only problem was my wellness company kit was in Massachusetts. So, I got to remember to bring it with me every time. But I went down to like urgent care here in Brooklyn. I thought it'd be cheap. I'm in a relatively cheaper area. It's gentrifying, but it's, urgent care used to be like $60. You go in, they give you, some antibiotics, prescription, all that. I go in and just for the visit at urgent care was like $250 just to get seen by a doctor, not counting anything else. $250. I'm like, I've got a $299 kit in another state. I'm buying another one, so I have one in every state. That's just one of their solutions. They got so much good stuff there. Check out the wellness company. Go to dailyclouthealth.com and use code dailyclout and get $60 off and free shipping. Okay, and then another one of our sponsors, and this one's really, really exciting, especially if you have loved ones or you yourself have some nerve issues, anything like that. But this one is Primal, myprimal.life. So you probably heard the headlines by now. RFK's pharma audit team has been digging into uncomfortable questions about common medications like acetaminophen, the key ingredient in Tylenol. Okay. And so multiple studies have actually raised concern about acetaminophen. As you know, it's the active ingredient in Tylenol and its effect on something called glutathione. Okay, what is that? Glutathione is your body's master antioxidant. It protects your cells, your brain, and your nervous system from damage. And when glutathione levels decrease, what happens? Your nerves don't fire quite the way they should. Signals weaken, repairs slow down. That's when people start feeling burning, tingling, numbness, the kind of nerve pain that quietly takes over your life. And here's the bigger issue. Tylenol isn't the only thing that drains antioxidants from your body. Ultra-processed food does, environmental toxins, chemicals in hygiene products, plastics we use every single day, like those scrub pads, get rid of them. Never use a plastic scrub pad. You're rubbing that crap right into your body. It all adds up. And most solutions for nerve pain, pills, cream, TENS machines, and so on, they try to mask the pain, but they don't replace what your nerves are actually missing. The good news, there are specific minerals naturally occurring straight from the earth to help restore nerve strength, protect nerve cells, and calm that constant buzzing, burning, and numbness. Okay, so let me get the QR code up there. What you're going to do, you're going to scan the QR code. It's going to take you to My Primal Life /investigate nerve. And let me get that up for you. Here we go. There we go. Yeah, there it is. Scan it. Okay, and scan the QR code. What that's going to do is, don't worry about it. It's not going to infect your phone. I've done it. There's a great video on there. Explains it all. If you don't want to watch the whole video, you click right to the PDF. Download that PDF. You're going to want to read it. It's very interesting. So you go there. You're going to find out what those minerals are, how they work, and why some people call them the miracle grow for your nerves. Meaning your nerves kind of like plants, and if they're not taken care of, they start to wilt. That increases that gap between your nerves, the synapse. And if they're down here like this, it's kind of like, same thing that happens when you're drunk. It's like they're firing slowly. This spruces them right up and they're boom, boom, like new spark plugs. Okay, so that's why they call it the miracle grow for your nerves. Because when your nerves get what they need, they don't just calm down, they power back up. Okay, and final sponsor for the night, Augusta Gold. Take down this guy. Actually, I'm going to save Augusta Gold for the end because that ties into what I'm saying. So what time is it here? 11:36. How long have we been going? 2 hours. Not bad. We're having a good run. Let's keep going. Who wants to keep going? I know Donnie does. All right. It's their identity. Yeah, you're right. She says their identity. They take off you stuff. Thanks, Donnie Girl. World history should be mandatory teaching in the American public. I love this community we have here. Elementary and up. Showing how no other government system compares to our constitutional republic. Damn right. Damn right, Donna. And that's what people, you're right. I mean, there's no comparison, and that also sucks these people in. Okay. I'm going to show you guys some clips from the DSA win party the other night. This is going to give you a nice inside look into really what's going on there. And I didn't take this from anyone else. I actually recorded it myself. I had to kind of crop it a little because I had my fake name in there and I didn't want to quite give that up. But let's look at... Okay. I won't make you watch the entire thing. That's not what I wanted to do. Here we go. Okay, video file. Pulling that up. Sorry, guys. I shouldn't apologize so much, but you know the deal. I'm self-producing, so I don't have anyone pulling this up for me, which is fine. I'm getting better at it. All right, here we go. All right, so this first, I cut it up. I've got the full one all loaded online. So this is basically the win party they had. Now, while you're watching these few clips, watch the membership numbers just since the primaries. Okay. This is, I think, admin talking points here. Let's see what they talk about.
Socialists on their ballot.
Here we go.
And, enter their stuff in and said, are there socialists on my ballot? And we generated about 24,000 ballots over the course of early voting and election day from 14,000 unique devices, and about half of those came in on election day itself. I want to note the concentrations that you're seeing on the screen and mention that our endorsed candidates, especially those who contributed to running ads to push this ballot lookup tool to help make it easier for people to find where and how to vote, they saw the most lookups in their areas, which makes sense. But if we start to look at the non-DSA represented districts where a lot of people were looking for socialists on their ballot.
Looking for socialists.
Assembly, 8053, Maritza Davila was very closely tied for
no one's looking for socialists, guys.
Number of ballot lookups. In a sea of like 5 socialists, she was quite up there. And in Congress, Hakeem Jeffries' district was the second most looked up, about twice as many times as Daria Liza's district, for people trying to find socialists on their ballot. And
okay, so let me just pause this for a second.
In a sea of like 5.
Really? Okay, so let me pause this for a second. That's normalization. They're trying to make it sound like everyone's trying to find these socialists on their band. They just can't find them because Hakeem Jeffries, I don't think, had anyone to run against. Now, here's the trick here. This is what communists do. This is what the Bolsheviks did. They actually named themselves the Bolsheviks, which means like the big ones are the majority, even though they were in the minority, and Menshevik obviously meant the minority. But you see all these dots. What this is the vote lookup tool. And these are individual people supposedly looking up. They're not looking up socialists. They're actually looking up where to vote and who's running in their district. She's framed it as, oh, they're look at all these people. They can't find the socialists. We're going to help them find socialists next time. So just so you know what she's talking about there.
Plans about where to run socialists in future cycles.
So yeah, they're using the city maps to figure out where they're going to flood.
So now we're going to hear a bit from Tara about where we won in the city, and particularly the triumph of Black socialism this cycle.
We're going to skip by him. He didn't really.
There you go.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Tara Ajitor. I'm a part of AfroSoc, which is the sort of socialists of color caucus within New York City DSA. We are an affinity group for socialists of color.
Yeah. So I'm not skipping by him. I do want to point out he's literally like the only black guy like on any meeting I've ever been to that's spoken. Everyone else is white. Okay. Here we go.
Broader working class, but are also going to a race. And I've come out of.
For now,
Here we go. So this is the girl running it.
About what exactly. Thank you so much, Tara.
Okay.
Dari had some trouble getting on. Dari Litza, are you on? We couldn't find you.
I can go full screen.
Seems like that problem has not been resolved. Hopefully she can come back because Tara did such a wonderful job setting all of that up. So we will come back to that section. But instead, for now, we are going to move on to talk about what exactly we are building. So we had all these wins. Why are we winning? What are we fighting for at the federal level, but also at the state level where we are...
No, she said federal level. It's not local.
Socialists up in Albany, New York's capital. And to kick us off from that, we are so excited to hear from one of those winners last night, Abir Kawas, who won in State Senate District 12. She's a community organizer and has spent years of her life fighting for working class New Yorkers, including developing Not on Our Dime, which is legislation that, when we pass it, will end New York's subsidy of Israel's illegal settlement expansion and state violence against Palestinians. Abir had a resounding victory last night and is going to become the first Palestinian New York State legislator in history.
Blah.
We are so proud of her win. We are so honored to be fighting alongside her, and I'm ecstatic to bring her onto the call. So, Abir, whenever you're ready. Abir, are you able to...
So I want to point out here, so you guys know, that I have to load her clip in there. It's a separate clip. So you guys know when she talks, you're not going to be able to understand her. I'll see how it sounds on this. But like she kept covering the mic, I guess, on her phone with her hand, and it's really frustrating because I wanted to hear what she had to say. But let me tell you something. This is one angry-looking woman. And when I saw her poster up on, like, in my area, like the Little Caribbean area of Brooklyn, like people were tearing it down. They're like, we don't want a communist and all that. I can't believe she won, but honestly, I don't think they play fair. Okay, so this is her.
Okay. Seems like that problem has not been resolved. Hopefully she can come back because Tara did such a wonderful job setting all of that up. So we will come back to that section. But instead, for now, we are going to move on to talk about what exactly we are building.
Sorry, guys.
So we have... And there were so many people who won in State Senate District 12. She's a community organizer and has spent years of her life fighting for working class New Yorkers, including developing Not on Our Dime, which is legislation that, when we pass it, will end New York's subsidy of Israel's illegal settlement expansion and state violence against Palestinians. Abir had a resounding victory last night and is going to become the first Palestinian New York State legislator in history. We are so proud of her win. We are so honored to be fighting alongside her, and I'm ecstatic to bring her onto the call. So, Abir, whenever you're ready. Abir, are you able to...
Yeah, I'm not... Okay. Hey everyone, salam, peace. It's such a... To really make sure that our public schools are funded, that our public housing is funded. We have to make sure that we're getting that funding through this.
Abir, you muted yourself, so we can't hear you anymore.
So the sound is terrible on this one. So I'm gonna put up the other one. So she goes on. Turn on my camera here and put myself back on the stage. She goes on and on about how everything sucks and about America and everything. Kind of, it was hard to understand her. So I'm going to try to clean up the sound on that one and put it on another episode because it sounded worse in person. So let me give you, so then the next video that we have is, I'm saving the best for last. Okay, so then came on Hassan Piker, and let's see if I got these here. Hold on. Yeah, so Hassan Piker was next. I was surprised to see him with Chevalier, and I want to point out Chevalier supposedly just converted to Islam. Just keep an eye on what's behind her.
Senate to be fighting for Palestinian liberation with you, and to be organizing a Socialists in Office project at the state level with you. But speaking of Socialists in Office, I believe we now have Daria Litza on the line. She, as well as Claire, are going to be joining AOC and Chris Rabb and hopefully some other people. And oh my God, I didn't know we had another guest. By the way, I don't control the screen. That's all messed up. Great to see you. But Daria Litza, over to you. Please tell us about your race, about building uptown and building across the country.
Yeah, well, I am just so deeply grateful to every member of our coalition, but especially DSA and Justice Democrats, because I think y'all really, we built a dream team together. And I'm just so grateful for all the work that everyone put in. The amount of energy and love that was poured into building this movement and this campaign cannot be overstated. I'm really so deeply grateful. I came into this campaign with folks telling me that it was over before it even started, and that there was no way that we could take on a machine like Espaillat's, that there was no way that...
By the way, she's supposedly a Muslim, and I just want to point out, between her and Hassan Piker, there some nice bottles of wine, just saying.
An organizer could build out a political electoral campaign. And together we built something out that people, even till the week before the election, were really underestimating. And we won, right? And I think that just speaks volumes to the power of organizing people. There were $7 million that were spent against me to attack me and my personhood, and not any of the policies that we were actually fighting for, because we know that those were actually really popular policies. There was a spill over here. But, these were critiques not of the policies, because we know that these policies are ones that are popular, that people want, that New Yorkers want, and that the people of New York 13 were hungry for. This is a politic that was actually part of the politic that is rooted in the history of that district, where you have so many socialist movements from people of color, so many of our giants in the Black radical tradition, in the Latino organizing tradition, were coming out of New York 13. And so it was just such a deep privilege to be able to organize around these principles in a community that has not been able to reap the benefits of that type of organizing in decades. And I'm just so excited to be able to build that out on a national level, to scale it, to address the issues that we're facing right now. And so deeply, deeply grateful to every single person who was part of this campaign. I think really the fact that we were able to bring together a coalition of organizations that were able to help build out an infrastructure, build out an organizing system, and make sure that we got all of the resources and people power needed to win here was so crucial. And so I came into this knowing that I wanted it to be part of building movement work, knowing that I wanted people to join their political homes. So if you are here and you're not a DSA member, join DSA. Because I really want us to be able to build this people power that will help us deliver in the long run. Because this isn't just about the seat. It's not even about this one moment in history. It is about making sure that people are brought into our politics and find homes and political homes that they'll stay in. I'm so grateful. I want us to just take the time to join DSA, be a card-carrying member. And we need more socialists, actually. We need more of them. We have actually another race coming up in Denver with Melat Kiros, who is facing an incumbent who is just as bad as Espaillat. So let's get that one out as well and get Melat in, because she's just an incredible
They're talking
being,
about
an
other
incredible
Democrats
candidate.
or Democrats.
And I would be so honored to get to call her my colleague in Congress. So please make sure that you support her as well. sign up to phone bank with her. Please support her. Also, donate to all of these races. We have a number of other races still coming up down the pipeline that we really, really need to support. And I think we need to do all the things that we did in my race. Whether that is going out to canvas in person, phone banking, donating, because it's so deeply important. Again, I was up against $7 million and we still beat that. And we can do the same in all these other races. But next in the pipeline is Milat. So please support her. And thanks, y'all.
Yeah, it's coming up on next Tuesday in Denver, Colorado. It's one of the youngest districts. I think it might literally be the youngest district in the country. Diane DeGette is a faux progressive that hasn't really moved the needle as much and hasn't really done right by her constituents. And they also have the same exact appetite that your district had as well. So many people outside kept saying over and over again, they're only in here every 4 years. They only see Adriana, and there's a real opportunity to make change here. So many people were activated by your campaign. They were so excited to be a part of it. And there were a lot of people who were asking, like, how can we support it, even if we're not in the district? And I think we did see a huge impact on the phone banking, especially at the final hour. And I think we can make that happen for Milat as well. I'm just here as her lawyer. That's why I'm sitting here. Yeah.
So I just want to pause and say right here, and I am curious, maybe the women in the audience can say this better. Are those two sleeping together? Because they seem like they are, definitely seem like they are. And, I say that, I want to amplify that because I know the way communists work. Communists, they are all jealous of each other. They all hate each other. So why not cause a little fracturing in there? But they do seem like they're sleeping together. But the other reason I'm putting these clips up, and I'll put the full clips, I'll put the full meeting up on Rumble, is so you see, and hopefully I have the clip here, I want you to see who the audience is, okay? And so you get a sense, like, know your enemy. Know the way they talk. Know the way they do things. What these two are doing here is they're trying to make it sound like all of New York came out for this, right? Like only 17% of the voters that came out for Mondami came out for these primaries. It's a far cry from the Mondami push. So they had a huge drop, in my opinion, in support. But here's what they do. They will find districts where no one's really voting anyways and send a bunch of people in there to vote. Or not even that many, okay? And then they win that little sliver. They win this little sliver. And then they put up on the map so you see red all over the place. And they want people to think like this is a New York mandate. And one of the admins on this actually said, this is a mandate for New York. Barely anyone in New York was voting on this. I went to 6 polling places, and they were empty. They were empty. Okay, so barely anyone voted, but that's the problem. Like, the traditional Democrats didn't get anyone out. And so in some cases, they won with like a couple hundred votes. Okay, and so I don't want you to think for a second like there's some big, huge communist movement in New York, because there's not. Okay, these are the Democratic primaries, first of all. So they're all communist flavored. But at the same time, they had way less turnout for very important primaries than Mondami did for the mayoral election. So just keep that in mind. But also, I put this slide up so you can see these numbers. And this is 257 new members just in New York since the primaries, which were 24 hours after this.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Very official. No. It's good. It's good. We didn't know you'd be on.
I didn't either.
But as y'all can see, so we dropped the chats from the links from a lot in the chat. Thanks in part to Hassan actually on Monday and Tuesday. We had 600 people on a phone bank, and we got over 1,300 positive IDs for Daria Litsa. Between the IDs we got on that phone bank and on the Tuesday phone bank, I'm just saying it was the margin of victory. So were the phone banks why we won? Maybe. You could do that for Milat. But you could also be powering what's happening in New York City. We got our tracker up. We know people love a tracker. I love a tracker. I'm tracker pilled. We want to get to 5,000 in recurring donations. That will allow us to get more than 2 staffers. We're doing all this with 2 staffers. We would love to do more with slightly more staffers. So please click in there. But Hassan, Dari, anything else y'all want to add before we move on?
You know, I'm grateful to every single one of you who knocked on doors, who did a phone bank. So grateful to you, Hassan. To
I didn't do anything.
You brought so many people out to that
I
phone
didn't-
bank.
I
So
didn't
let's
do-
not
I didn't do
undersell it.
nothing.
And I
Totally
I'm
sleeping.
so grateful to every single person because you really showed that you can have a vision and you can have fight in you and actually deliver for people. And so to everyone who wants to continue to do that work, please join DSA. Please, please, please just keep organizing because we can build a better world together.
I will tell you this much. There are a lot of races out there, and there are a lot of fantastic DSA candidates all around the country that are running. You're obviously one of them. And for me, whenever I felt anxiety, I would like hit up Michael Lang and I'd be like, give me something good.
This, by the
Like,
way, is
tell me
kind of
something,
weird.
good. And he was not telling me good things. I'll be honest with you. And he was wrong, luckily. Fraud. Anyway, but whenever I felt in any way, shape, or form anxious, I think like the phone bank stuff that we did the last night, it really helped me. And I think it can help you guys as well. Whenever you feel like a race is close, or if you feel nervous about the outcome, you can be that change that you want to see, and it will soothe your anxiety. You will actually feel a lot better. And then when we get over the hump, then you can take credit for it a little bit too.
Amazing. Well, you heard it here, guys. Soothe your anxiety by joining DSA.
Okay, so that's that one. And then the final clip I'll play from that. And the entire meeting was like an hour long. I just didn't want to put you through all that. By the end, they did reach way over $5,000. And their new member count, I think, got above 300 just in 24 hours. That's a lot of members for just one area. And this is the New York City DSA, not nationwide. So the final clip is really interesting. Now, I know this is not breaking, but honestly, like, I took a week off, and you take a week off in this game and you get way behind the power curve. But look who appears here. So anyone that thinks they're not socialists, they're stupid. They're just listening. They're proud to be socialists, and they're normalizing being socialists. You know that. That's why they keep putting socialism, socialists. People are looking for socialists. That's what they're doing. Last year, they would shy away from saying they're socialists. This year, they're saying they're proud socialists. By the primaries, by the midterms, they're going to be saying they're communists. Okay, see if you guys know who this is.
Well, you heard it here, guys. Soothe your anxiety by joining DSA. So I'm gonna bring on Alicia Singham Goodwin, who is one of our leaders, a steering committee member, and also a stalwart organizer uptown, a future constituent of Darialita, to talk a little bit about what the chapter itself is doing, what we've been doing with electeds, what we're gonna be doing for the next year, 2 years, 50 years of socialism. Alicia, come on over.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Grace. Like Grace said, my name is Alicia. I'm a DSA member living in Harlem. I was so thrilled to be able to cast my ballot for Darialisa. 10 years ago, when I started organizing in my neighborhood, I could never have imagined that one day my congressperson and my mayor would be fellow DSA members, people that I've met, that I've canvassed with, who I trust and look up to, who are committed to the same project as I am. But we've got more work to do. So how are we actually going to win on all the things that Abir talked to us about? And I'll say honestly, it's up to all of you. Nothing is a given right now. These electoral victories are truly exhilarating, but they're just one piece of building the power that we need to transform people's lives. So concretely, we're fighting to win the affordability agenda that we campaigned so hard for during Zoran's mayoral race. We are going to freeze the rent tomorrow. We've got a campaign for fast and free buses. We have to make the leap from the exciting Mayor's 2K pilot program to really universal childcare. And like Abir said, if we're going to do that, we need to have enough money by taxing the rich. And so next year in Albany, 2027 is going to be all about that. We'll have the same uphill battle that we've had every year we fought to tax the rich, but we're going in with double the number of our socialists in office and hopefully double the number of DSA members on the
You guys
ground.
watching those
really
member counts go up?
And who knows, if we grow and we build enough between now and then, the next year in 2028, we might be working on a campaign for a Democratic Socialist for president. You heard from
Good
everyone.
God.
We
There it is.
need you to join DSA. We need you to pay local dues, but I'm going to ask you to do something a little harder, which is to become an organizer. It's all about having conversations. If you, like me, were in the playground, in your elevator, chatting up everyone you know, saying, have you voted for Diary Lisa yet? I hope you'll go back to those same people and really talk about what we're building, ask them to join. And I will pass it back to Gustavo to close us out.
All right. I'm loving.
Okay. So if you know if you're following, you know who that is. That's Roy Neville Singham's niece. Who's Roy Neville Singham? Most of you know, probably everyone on this knows, but let me just show you who that is. And we're going to close it out here pretty soon. I get to the terrorist ties on the next episode, but I have to go to bed. It's midnight. But let me just share this. So this is her uncle. Now, the story of Roy Neville Singham, believe it or not, was actually broken by the New York Times. And I've got to say, and I can't believe I'm saying this, they did a damn good job. I'm still trying to figure out why the New York Times would break this story. He's married to Jody Evans there. Okay. Jody Evans started Code Pink. She used to be like anti-human smuggling, anti-forced organ harvesting until she married this guy. And he's a super rich tech mogul. He shares an office. His office is in the same building as Xinhua Newsnet, which is the public-facing wing of the Chinese Ministry of Propaganda. Okay, that is a senior DSA member's uncle. Okay, so back to the person that said we got to cut off their funding. The government is actually working on it. So is the Indian government. Okay. So let's just read the beginning of this article. This article actually came out in, August 10th, 2023. There's a lot of conservative, podcasters like, what's her name? I can't even think of her name, but I've heard a few of them say, I broke this story. I hate to tell you, the New York Times broke the story about this guy. I'd love to figure out why, what was their motivation. The global web of Chinese propaganda leads to U.S. tech mogul. The Times unraveled a financial network that stretches from Chicago to Shanghai. Chicago is the DSA stronghold, and uses American nonprofits to push Chinese talking points worldwide. That's this guy. By the way, at her wedding was Amy Goodman, was one of her wedding guests. It was on a private island. I have the invite that I was able to get from the archives. Amy Goodman is the lead host and one of the founders of Democracy Now! Who else was there? It's alleged that Naomi Klein, the writer who wrote Shock Doctrine, was also there. Now, Naomi Klein is a Canadian author who she was at Rashida Tlaib's ceasefire rally on October 9th, just 2 days after October 7th. On a personal note, Naomi Klein actually wrote a book called Doppelganger that used as its launching point. It's really an attack on populism and sovereignty in America. And anyone that didn't want to, subscribe to mask mandates or vaccine mandates. But she wrote this whole book about Doppelganger. The Doppelganger supposedly is my wife, Naomi Wolf, where Naomi Klein is trying to say, oh, people have confused her with me my whole life. I hate it. I hate her. And it's worth a listen. I've got an audio version I could get to anyone for free because God knows we don't want to help Naomi Klein. But Naomi Klein is definitely a big-time propagandist for Marxist causes coming out of Canada. Her husband, Avi, Avi Lewis, he has a contract with the Canadian government pushing vaccines and pushing any of their state-run medicine. So I'll just read you the beginning of this, not the whole thing. The protests in London's bustling Chinatown brought together a variety of activist groups to oppose a rise in anti-Asian hate crimes. So it was peculiar when a street brawl broke out among mostly ethnic Chinese demonstrators. Witnesses said the fight in November 2021 started when men aligned with the event's organizers, including a group called No Cold War, attacked activists supporting the democracy movement in Hong Kong. On the surface, No Cold War is a loose collective run mostly by American and British activists who say the West's rhetoric against China has distracted from issues like climate change and racial injustice, same old talking points. In fact, the New York Times investigation found it is part of a lavishly funded influence campaign that defends China and pushes its propaganda. At the center is a charismatic American millionaire, Neville Roy Singham, who is known as a socialist benefactor of far-left causes. What is less known and is hidden amid a tangle of nonprofit groups and shell companies is that Mr. Singham works closely with the Chinese government, media machine, and is financing its propaganda worldwide. From a think tank in Massachusetts to an event space in Manhattan called the People's Forum, where DSA meets and they use their office space, from a political party in South Africa to a news organization in India and Brazil, the Times tracked hundreds of millions of dollars to groups linked to Mr. Singham that mix progressive advocacy with Chinese government talking points. That guy's niece is the one you just saw on screen, right at the heart of the DSA and the senior leadership. She's been at it for a while. I think she was arrested at a couple of protests. I'm not going to read the whole article to you, but it's definitely worth a read. And of all the investigations, I don't know what got into the New York Times when they wrote this, but it's a good article. And I checked out their sources and everything. And here it says, let me just read this to you. In 2017, Mr. Singham married Jody Evans, a former Democratic political advisor and co-founder of Code Pink. The wedding in Jamaica was a who's who of progressivism. Photos from the event show Amy Goodman, host of Democracy Now!, Ben Cohen, co-founder of Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream, and V, the playwright formerly known as Eve Ensler, who wrote the Vagina Monologues. So definitely read this article. But I do want to point out too that Hassan Piker, who was just on screen there, he, I believe, is under criminal investigation because he went with Code Pink just recently to Cuba in violation of our sanctions, and I forgot what else it violates, but he broke the law basically. He's in trouble, okay, and he's scared. But they go through the entire network here, and it's important to really just read everything you can. Like, start with a starting point, okay? Start with Code Pink if you want, and start researching everything about them. And I'm saying this because someone asked me, like, how do I know all this stuff about all this stuff? And it's easy. Anyone who's collected comic books knows, or anyone who has just gotten into like fantasy football knows. When you buy your first comic book, right? I remember buying my first comic book when I was a kid. I was like 13 maybe. I bought like X-Men. Well, obviously the X-Men was a few issues in, so I had no idea what's going on. I didn't know who Cyclops was or all these people, were in the Marvel universe. But I read one comic book because I was bored. I was actually working at a Ben & Jerry's ice cream parlor in Maine. And while you're reading a comic book, they'll introduce other characters like Wolverine or whatever. And then you're like, oh, I got to find out about that. So you buy a Wolverine comic book. Okay. And then now you're learning about Wolverine. Then the Wolverine comic book will basically introduce Spider-Man or Daredevil, something. It's been a long time, but then you buy those. So you basically keep branching out to these different areas, and you learn everything you can about them. And 5,000 comic books later, because I have a huge collection. Hopefully I still have it. Hopefully my brother's going to steal it. But the point is, like, I know a lot about the Marvel Universe because of that. I know a lot about these geopolitical events because since the start of the pandemic, not from my intelligence background or anything, but the start of the pandemic, we're in the woods with internet, and I had a client paying me. So I would just start digging in on Wuhan is where I started. Then Wuhan Institute of Virology, then the scientists there, then the connections there. So you see your knowledge just forms a bunch of little islands in your head, and you just keep drilling down on each one island at a time. And before you know it, you have the entire archipelago of islands of knowledge of what's going on with our enemies in your head. And that's how you do it. And you just keep going. Okay, you just keep going. Find a topic or a subject that you want to target, that you want to learn everything about because you want to stop them and learn everything about them. When you learn everything about them, then pick the person adjacent. So, for instance, if you want to learn everything about Singham, okay, you drill down at, like, you learn everything about him. You make notes of his key people. Then you want to probably go to Jody Evans. Then you want to probably go to executives in his tech firms. Okay, then you want to go to his niece. And then you're going to gain so much knowledge, but you got to do it every day. You got to do it every day because then you can effectively talk about it and alert people to it. Okay, so would we talk about tonight? What we talked about was the socialist takeover. It's not that big yet. It's not as big as I want you to believe it is, but I want you to pay attention to the growth you just saw in membership in a local chapter right there. We have to keep an eye on it, and you have to look. The best thing you could do, we all know some Democrats, best thing you could do is remind them that the DSA are not Democrats. They are enemies of this country. They hate this country. They want to destroy this country. Plain and simple. Okay, that's one thing you can do. What else can you do? Flood the zone with their public events. Go to the DSA website. Get on there. Be disruptive. Go undercover. Most of the events are online, so it's super easy. But find the ones in your local area, okay? And if you're really bold, like my good friend Autumn is, or my wife Naomi is, sow doubt with truth, okay? You might get punched in the face even, okay? Hopefully not. But the thing is, if you can create doubt with truth in one of those people, there's a better chance that you're going to wake a bunch of people up. But everyone needs to do it, and we need to do it every day. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, the DSA, the socialists, the communists, they're out there every day. They're playing Moneyball, okay? They want to get runners on base and move them one at a time around those bases. That's how they're winning. That's how they're playing. That's how they're advancing up the field. We're playing Doug Flutie type football. I know I'm mixing up my sports, but we want to throw Hail Marys every freaking election. We cannot do that anymore. We all have to get involved. This is a moment. Okay, this is a moment. This is another moment where the communists or some other group like the fascists have tried to take out America. Okay, and we cannot let that happen. But the only way to stop it is not waiting for Donald Trump to do it, not waiting for Marco Rubio to do it. They're doing a great job. Not waiting to expose people with the Epstein files, because as you know, these freaking people are about to elect a Nazi, and they're supposedly socialists. Okay, socialists are supposedly on the same team as Antifa, which stands for anti-fascist, yet they're about to hire and elect a guy in Maine who's a Nazi. They don't care. You can expose they know Clinton is in the Epstein files 1 million times over, and half their other people. They don't care. It's all about power. So I'm not saying those things are not important, but what I am saying what is important is stopping the DSA in its tracks. That's what I'm doing every day. I know a lot of you are doing that every day. As Donnie says, it's a fight for our country. Okay. And no one can sit this one out because every single house, every single family, every single nuclear family, every mind of every child going to public school is a battlefield. So are you going to go into that battle carrying your sword and your shield and walking out of that battle or being carried out on your shield? Or are you going to stick your head in the sand or curl up in a ball or, flee the foxhole like the guy who fled Charlie Sheen in, Platoon? Okay. How do you want to go into this fight and how do you want to come out of this fight? Not everyone's going to come out of it, but this is a moment and this will get violent. We're seeing it already. This will get more and more violent. It will reach out and touch everyone. So get in this fight. I don't care who you are. Find a way to get in it. If you want some ideas, you can always contact me, brian@dailyclout.io, or you can find me on X at Brian O'Shea, SPI. Mention the show. I'll follow you back. I promise. Okay. If you can't DM me because I'm not following it, just put it publicly. That's fine. Okay. But get in this fight. We do not, I don't want my 14-year-old fighting this fight. Okay. I don't want my 25-year-old fighting this fight. Okay. We need to stop this. Okay. We will overcome. They will adapt if they have to fight it. But you know what? Let's do as much as we can to weaken our enemies or destroy them so they don't have to. Okay. So, I will be back sooner. I promise. Okay. I'm getting better at just getting on. I prepare too much, guys. I do. I get lost in the research. But I need to just kind of take a pause from that research and share with you where I'm at with that research. So I'm promising I'm going to do better with that. I think it's important now more than ever. And stay focused. Okay. Stay focused. Don't chase the shiny thing. Pick a topic. Stick to it. Share it with me. We'll share it together. I'll put you on the damn camera if I have to. Okay. But pick a lane. Stick with it. Okay. Honestly, I don't really care what Bill Gates is doing right now. I really honestly don't care why they didn't release all the Epstein files. I know they didn't release them because half this shit's under investigation, but I don't care about that. What I care about is actionable intelligence. I care about tactical intelligence. And this is a battle. That means it's tactical. So do things that matter. Do things that keep the DSA from taking over in your city or the city next to you, because go to their map. They're everywhere. We have to stop them, all of us. And you're all warriors. I know you are. So just remember who you are. You're Americans. Fight for America. It's our 250th birthday, by the way. So let's give America the best birthday present you can give them. Her, him. And that is your best efforts to protect this great country. It's been Brian O'Shea. Thanks for joining me on this very long podcast. And I thank you all for putting your comments up here, and I will address them all. And don't forget, we got someone to follow. Let me get back to that. He's got some good information, so I'm going to pop his stuff right back up there. I want to find out about these New York elections areas. But yeah, do something. Do something. And you know what? Honestly, like, even if you're super busy, we're all super busy. Who's not super busy? But I always think back to like think about like those people in World War II in Europe. Okay, like the French resistance or the Warsaw Ghetto uprising people. They were left with no choice but to fight. We have a chance right now to have choices if we fight now. Let's not wait. I'm not saying they waited, but let's not wait until we have to have no choice to fight. See what I mean? And I've got to admit, maybe I'm a psychopath. There's nothing like a good fight, especially when you win it. And we can definitely win this one. These people are weak now. Now's the time to strike. Okay, so again, this is Brian O'Shea with Investigate Everything. I'll get all these notes up, including that gentleman's Twitter in the description. In the meantime, send me your leads, send me your ideas. And look for the DSA in your town, and we will defeat them together as Americans. And I don't even care if you're a Democrat at this point. Americans come first. We can all beat the communists. Can't believe they're back, but I don't think they ever went away. Have a great night. I will talk to you soon.